All right, this is different. The guys from I Came With Fire podcast reached out and said, hey, come on our show. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. These guys are rad. They'll let me repost this on my channel. Check it out. Oh, yeah, and before I forget, I probably said a lot of things in this one that I never said publicly before and probably won't say again, but you can't hold me to that. Either way, there's a lot of juicy stuff. It's really long, but dig into it, and maybe you'll learn something.
But do you think that the Chinese have as robust a reverse engineering program as the United States do?
I don't know. You know, it's been interesting to see. I mean, if you hear the stories about like a lot of the operatives guys, there's the crash retrieval programs, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing that's recently, right? It's always been around, but a lot of those tie into non-nation states, and when you hear these CIA guys, and you hear these XIC guys or XIC guys, whatever, talk about non-nation states, you're like, well, who the fuck is that? Well, think about it. Who would have the pockets to do that? It would be the military-industrial complex. It'd be like the Lockheeds, and it'd be the the Boeings and whoever, right? That's going to hire ex-operatives. That's going to have the pockets to do that. To have guys that want to pay. You want to make $500,000 this year? Cool. You go over there and you pick that shit up. You don't ask any questions, and you come back with it. So then, what is it? It's a race, right? So like anything that drops anywhere, there's a thing that's true, and it came out of Freedom of Information Act. It was from Brazil. That anything that fell out of the sky was the United States'. And if you give it to us, we're going to give you a shitload of money. You go get it. If we can't get it before you do, you go get it and you give it to us, and it's ours. We're going to give you a shitload of money. We're going to give you guns, weapons, whatever the hell you want, right? We're just going to give it to you, but that's our shit. And we have a disagreement with a whole bunch of different countries like that. That's like, anything comes out of the sky, it's ours. So it's the race to get it. So does China have a leg up? I don't know. Personally, and people will probably give me a lot of shit for this, but I think China's really good at copying things.
Let's go!
When they show you the Air Force, it looks like this like super high tech at all times at every turn, and it's just not, And we always used to joke when I was still active that the Air Force's little recruiting motto was, "It's not science fiction; it's what we do every day." So we're like out there with a manual search mirror, being like, "It's not science fiction; it's what we do every day." Just like walking around, looking underneath it. Yeah, no, you good to go. So it's just dumb. You would think that the primacy that the America enjoys, we would have all this amazing tech everywhere, but we don't.
We do, but that's the fun part about the hidden shit, that I've been into forever.
Well
right?
said.
Yeah. So like, oh man. All right, I'm in a bar, and I'm bartending 2001. And outside of Toledo, I'm in Swanton, this little tiny town. It's right next to the 180th, right? And there's a guy comes in every Wednesday, has 3 margaritas. That's it. Doesn't have any more. Clean cut, mustache. Guy's probably 60, maybe something. Around that age. Real fit. Doesn't say anything. Talks real polite. Whatever. One day he comes in, he has fucking 5, right? And we cut everybody off at 5 because it's just the way this place is. Dude has 5 margaritas, and I'm like, I've talked to him for like a year, maybe 2, right? Just nice guy. And I'm like, I'm talking to him like, all right. He's like, yeah, I was, I can't remember exactly, right, all the stuff he told me. And I'm like, well, tell me something. He's like, I can't tell you anything. I'm like, well, tell me something that's already, 25 years, whatever, right, that's out that you could tell me. And he's like, all right. I was I was a part of this unit that we had these guys that would run ahead of everybody. And we'd stick these things in the ground that looked like a blade of grass, right? Every so many feet, like, or yards, or whatever, right? We just stick this thing in the ground. If you walk past this thing, you couldn't tell it was a blade of reed. It was like a reed. It was like a blade of grass. And somebody had a thing that looked like a laptop that was like, but giant, right? It was like a big thing. And he said, from that, these sensors, we could tell troop movement. We could tell how many people were coming, what they were armed with, what direction they were coming, and all this shit. And that was like, Nam, right? And I was like, holy shit. And he's like, yeah, so that's been like 30 years, how many years? Like 40 years now, right? Whatever, so I can tell you. But that was all like top secret, whatever. And I dug into it. I found that shit after, I don't know, the internet, right? Because back in 2021, it still wasn't a big thing. You could go find anything, but Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah.
Dude, I dug out all that shit, and it took me 15 years later after talking to that dude to find it. But I was like, holy shit, we had that then. Like we had that then, and nobody knows about it. Everybody was thinking we're out there just fucking chucking grenades, right? But like,
Right.
Well, the problem with the United States
go ahead, Chris.
military is that it has to plan for the lowest common denominator, and that's the private. So
True.
that's the biggest thing around.
Thanks, Army.
Yeah. You're right. Keeping you free since 1776.
That's it. That's it.
And also
Yeah,
helping paint, probably.
Well, I like that you said that
Ether.
because like a lot of the tech theft that the Chinese have done
yeah.
is stuff that we've shelved,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of nuts. Like even the thorium reactors that they're using is a shelved American product,
Yeah.
and we just never ran it down. And it just goes to show you, I think the hubris is what gets me the most upset about it. There's the hubris involved, thinking that like, yeah, we don't need to do these things. We don't need to spend the money on this. We don't need to be responsible because no one's going to catch up with us. Meanwhile, we spent 20 years in the sandbox and not doing anything while the Chinese kept their head down and just built and built and built and built and stole and stole and stole and stole. And we didn't do anything really to stop it. Nothing that was actually effective. And now here they are. All these things, these projects and these this tech they have and this reactor, right? And it's all just American crap that we just never did and never ran down. It's disappointing because you're right. You know, we've had all of this crazy advanced tech for a long time, and I'm sure there's so much that we just don't know about. Chris and I were just joking the other day about that Truth Social post or whatever that Trump made where he referenced how we can change space and time or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I wonder if he was dog whistling. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, that whole thing with Trump. But get back to the thorium reactor thing. I'm going to jump on that real fast because
Please.
my buddy John Warner IV told me early on that that thorium reactor worked and it was really efficient. And it was the reason we shelved it is because we couldn't make nuclear fissionable material out of it to create bombs.
Right.
So we were like,
because we couldn't make bombs.
yeah, that's literally it. It was cheaper, it was cleaner, it was faster, it was better. Yes, it was like we can't.
How are we supposed to market this?
We can't do this. We can't do this, right? So literally, that's what we did. It's like this is amazing, but guess what? We can't get the fissionable material, so we can't make nukes off of it. Literally, that's
wild.
Yeah, that's true. If you look that up, that's why we did it.
So Texaco's back there lobbying, like, no, you guys, we don't need clean energy. We don't need any of that stuff.
Yep.
You guys, we just need to keep using oil. No, that's wild. I always like to make the reference that, like, you know, we have, you know, space travel roughly. You know, we've got all this other cool tech, but we're still driving around in cars with combustion engines. Right. You know, basically, you know, still using fossil fuels when we have, you know, we're shelving thorium reactors apparently because we couldn't find a way to weaponize it at the time. Never mind the fact that we could, you know, actually have clean energy, and the waste from that is almost non-existent when you compare the waste that you get from other fuel sources. You know, so
it kind of makes me wonder, Brandon. You know how the greatest lie has a kernel of truth in it, but also one of the greatest things about a lie is if you have to work a little bit to get a hold of it, you're going to believe it that much more because you felt like you're invested in it, figuring something out. So it makes me wonder if, you know, up there at those levels that we're talking about, some of these secret projects, it's like, oh, hey, thorium reactor or whatever, like put in, you know, 0 point energy, you know, whatever. It's like, we know that we can't get this and we know we're not going to crack it, but let's keep running it down so that way we'll put it over in the sector of stuff that it's like we're okay if the Chinese get a hold of this. Right, it's kind of like we trained them
like
wrong.
A limited hangout.
Yeah. We trained them wrong as a joke. We that's the stuff that we let them think that they got away with, and then it's like, yeah, that was going.
And I hope we were that smart.
That's what I'm saying.
Say.
You know?
We are. So
it's
I went
a real 4D chess thing.
I went to Eastern Michigan University as the Center of Excellence for the NSA, right? So I took that whole course, so I have BA in Information Assurance, right? So in that whole building that we were in was, you know, everybody from I don't know. When everybody showed up, they were, you know, nobody knew their ranks and everything, but everybody knew where they were at, kind of. And people were cool enough. I was old. I was like 28, right? And everybody else is 18. But then you could see the guys that were, you know, IC military. They were older, and they would hang out because it's like nobody wants to hang out with the 18-year-olds, right? They're just like, hey, dude. And, you know, so anyway.
Exactly.
We were in the Material Sciences building at Eastern Michigan. I don't know if it's still there or not, but the Material Sciences building there. And they had ROTC and all this other shit. It was real close. And what they were doing for years is they were kind of responsible for doing like a lot of the advanced coatings that were hitting the B2 and, you know, some of the you know, stealth coatings. And early on they found hopefully I don't get burned for this one, but whatever, it's been long enough. But they found that the Chinese were hacking to try to get material sciences, right? They're trying to get the formulas for them. So they fucking honeypotted them. and put the material. They tweaked the formula, so instead of being radar absorption, it was radar reflecting.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's awesome.
they found a plane. So they knew China had it. They checked it. They hacked it. They made it because they're like, whatever. They sprayed this plane for it, and it was just like this disco ball, right? And they took off. It was just this giant fucking disco ball. It was just like,
fuck you.
So
that's awesome.
So everybody was just going, fuck you, China,
Well, that
right?
was
So,
that was the argument against the weather balloon story. Remember Fang Fang's famous Valentine's Day card that she flew over, all of the United States for. What's his name?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not familiar with this
Eric
one.
Swalwell. The weather balloon. Remember the big weather balloon thing, that fiasco that happened? It was just
where we shot it down like a couple years ago. Yeah,
right.
yeah, 2023.
But we waited until it made it all the way across the United States, and then we shot it down. Well, the arguments were, it's like, well, maybe we're reverse, hacking it or whatever. And
we're gathering intel on that.
I hope that's the case. I genuinely hope that was the case, and it wasn't just total ineptitude, but. Yeah,
no, I know that they were some of the friends I have were at bases where they were tracking them. They was flying over the certain spots, and they were. I don't know what kind of tech is on it. None of that ever came out of there. But
there's a lot of U.S. tech.
It's happened.
There's a lot of U.S. tech. There's like a lot of components from U.S. It was just soldered on to a bunch of shit from what I saw.
Right.
Duct taped.
I'll ask you this: How much do you think the Chinese's technical advancement is just basically what the U.S. did to the Soviet Union? You think a lot of it is a way to try to get us to spend our way into defeat?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so like, how we basically spent, Russia or Soviet Union into defeat, right? And a lot of the artificial oil pricing, we had a lot of collusion with. A couple Arab nations to artificially inflate the price of oil so that it basically, or was it deflate? I can't remember. It was one of the ways. It was, I think it was inflate, so that the price of oil was so high that it basically bankrupted him. Or if it was deflate because they had a lot of exports. I can't remember. It's been a while, but I think it was one of the ways that we worked with other countries to economically to kind of destroy them in that sense, right? And then plus them trying to parallel what we did. But at the same time, we still have all that secret space program that happened in parallel, right? So Project Paperclip after World War II happened, and we had half of the Germans right here, and the Russians had the other half. And they had like free carte blanche communication with each other during the Cold War, right? They were allowed to talk to each other. They would converse with each other. The Russian, I can't remember the name of it. I have a model of it sitting here somewhere. My buddy made me, but have you ever seen the Russian space shuttle? That's exactly, they just copied our space shuttle, right? It's exactly.
I have.
It's so it was.
There's like an old site you can still. I've seen pictures of it where they just have them sitting there collecting dust. Yeah, it does look like Challenger. It looks like Challenger basically.
It's exactly it. And they had two of them. Is it the Bera or something? I guess somebody's going to be mad at me. But anyway, they flew at once, right? They had one of them fly. The other one sat in mothballs, and you you're right. They have people like spelunked into there and like took videos and stuff of it in there. But basically, we had parallel with them the whole entire time. There's a whole branch of the UFO secret space community that says that we secretly still to this day even then have a secret pact with Russia that. We work together on like the space issue, right? And whatever that means is that I don't know if there's a hot war, a cold war that's a space based war that's kind of takes place with us on the same team, kind of against the others, right? That's interesting. That's one of the hypotheses that Tom DeLonge's done through all of his work with TTSA and all that, and all of his books and the movies and everything he's done is that. There's this backdoor thing going on for a few different parties where on the surface we look like we hate each other, but in the background we're like, okay, we kind of do, but we're going to work together on this other thing like we have to take care of. So
what would the impetus of that be? Because it certainly isn't for the collective good of humanity, right? Is this like be united against a common enemy? Would that be the idea of the hypothesis?
One of them, I think it's like maybe two or threefold. One of them is that yes, okay, we're united against a common enemy. The other one is that maybe there's not just one other, right? There's multiple others, and maybe another branch of these are working with other countries, right? So they're picking sides, right? So maybe this branch is working with this, and they don't like each other, right? So that we're working on that side. Like I said, this is kind of wild speculative theories and things like that. But it's fun. But I mean, if you look at some of the technology, transfers, and like we're talking about with Russia, it's like, well, okay, well. if you look back, we're like, well, why the hell would we let Russia just jack all of our stuff? You know what I mean? Jack our stuff. Well, maybe there is a point to it, right? Well, maybe there is something that's going on. I mean, you know, look at Diego Garcia and all the shit that goes on there. I don't know.
Look at the withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Why would the most powerful military in the entire world leave $80 billion worth of top-grade military equipment in the middle of a third-world country with no security?
Yep.
Yeah. Because they want them to have it.
And for what reason? Yeah. That's the fun part, right?
Right. That's the fun part.
Well, I mean, it's not like we haven't been arming
jihadists
groups
forever.
and just you know, it's kind of the MO of the CIA and all of those other NGOs, right? But no, I like that idea. The idea that there's some backdoor agreement between the Russians and Americans. You know, one of the more interesting things I've spent a little time looking into, because it's not something we talk about, is the cosmonaut program. And it's actually pretty wild, because the Russians did a lot of research and they had a lot of really successful outcomes as well. And it's just not talked about because the United States beat them in the space race to the moon, right? And there's all these books out there that you can go find. And I bought one of them and read it, and it's more of like a really 50,000 foot view on some of this stuff. But there's so much data out there that the cosmonaut program collected, and the Russians seem to be a lot more forthcoming with the like UAP, NHI information. And you know, the U.S. has been very like hush hush, and that's not real, and psyop about it and all this stuff. But it's so crazy because the Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore, but there's still all this data that the cosmonauts and their space program collected, and it's just out there, and a lot of it is open source. It's actually pretty nuts too. And then there his name is gonna has left my brain, but too, like in tandem, there's, you know, Jack Parsons, right? And then the maybe you can look him up, Chris, like just like maybe ask ChatGPT who Jack Parsons like opposite there was in Russia. But Shulkovsky or something like that.
I can't remember. I know exactly what you're talking about. There's a guy too. Just to mention him. His name's Paul Stonehill, and he's English speaker, but he's Russian of descent. And guy's got a YouTube channel, and he's written a bunch of books. He's like called the Russian Roswell is one of them, and stuff. And the guy posts insane on Twitter and everything. But basically, he's like, all of this is in Russian, but none of it's translated into English. And he's doing as much as he can to create these videos and everything to get out there. But you're right. I mean, it's like, oh yeah, here's all the data. And so like, boom, here's what we did. Like Lake Baikal, all this other things that have been going on in Russia, like the psychic program, you know, all of the other things. And Paul Stonehill's been the only guy that I know that's like, hey, this is what's going on. Russia, you know, has been doing it forever, and here it is. Boom. Right. You know, they just put it
maybe
out there.
Konstantin Tsiolkovsky or something like that.
You nailed it, dude. You nailed it.
Yeah.
Good job. But I was just going to say, Konstantin Tsiolkovsky, which was going to be my best take on it, and is often considered the father of Russian astronautics. So, good job, Brandon.
Well, the other... Appreciate that. The other cool thing about it is he has this, and I know I'm in good company here. Diana Pasulka talks a lot about the religiosity of UFOs and the idea of downloads, and obviously Jack Parsons is a big proponent of that conversation because that's what he said where he was getting a lot of this information. But Konstantin Tsiolkovsky was doing the same thing, but he had a more like religious aspect to it and talked about this. I think he was really talking about it before a lot of other people were talking about it. It's kind of the unnamed father of all of this stuff. But that's why I think the Russian space program is so interesting, because there has always been this underlying element of religion that's existed within. Even NASA has uses religion, like the Latin language to use it for programs and stuff. And in a way, I think that the idea, like the people who've been involved in the space program have always known that there's a spiritual aspect to this, but it's always just seen as this like little green men thing because of the predictive programming that the United States is so good at. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, we did really well post World War II because we got all of the world's leading psyop. Basically anybody that had anything to deal with that, propaganda. We had, Bernays on our side. We had everybody that had all of this thing to be able to spin it. And if you look back, I mean, you kind of can't fault them for some of the things, the Condor Report, and all these other things that came out and were like, hey, we can't figure this shit out, but we just got to tell everybody they're crazy so that we have time to figure it out. Because if not, they're, Who knows? Anybody can use it against us. Russia could just like basically, flood the switchboards back then in the 40s, right? And say, oh, there's UFOs, and they could fake something. Basically, then just invade,
Right.
and they were like, okay, we got to come up with it. But once they started getting down to the point, it's like, well, we've been perpetrating this lie for fucking 50 years, 60 years, and I mean, you guys know better than I do, probably. You guys are both military. And thank you for your service, by the way. I didn't say that, but thank you very much for both of you guys. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
And basically, from all my friends that are in the service too, like we're not starting anything new. We're not doing anything new. We're going to do this shit that I just showed up, and I'm going to do that just so I cover my ass, and I'm not going to come up with anything new, and then I'm going to leave. Like nobody's going to do anything new, right? And I think that's kind of been going on with the ufology thing too, with UFOs for everything. It's like I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do exactly. I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do. What everybody's been doing for 50 years, and I'm going to get out with my skin, right? And you can't really fault a guy for that, really, when you look at it from that aspect. You're not going to be the guy that gets out. You're going to be the guy that gets whacked. You say something, no, you're going to have an accident. And that's happened forever too, right? So,
well, it's such an intriguing place to start, for anybody just getting into kind of like the conspiracy realm or whatever you want to call it, the unexplained. UFOs is such a... It's such a perfect place to start, because if you go back to just like a thing that even the most normie of normies, lukewarm of normies knows, right? You want to talk about Roswell.
Yep.
You can see on the surface, for a fact, whatever you believe or don't believe, or whenever, putting speculation aside, we know for a fact that the original reports of what came out of what happened, and then the military comes back and revises the reports and changes them. Like they're both in the record, so that, and that's why it's just like a... Come on, little baby birdie, follow the rabbit, right? And then it leads to the next question, and then there you go, you're off to the races. So, but yeah,
right. But that's that was weaponized early on too, and it's still to this day. I mean, it's strong now. I mean, it's real strong. The propaganda, the misdirection, the counter intel is massive, right? I mean, cover anything up with a UFO. I don't know what it is. UFO. Look at that drone flap that happened in New Jersey over the winter.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that had everybody captivated for weeks.
It froze.
Uh-oh. Well, it's you and me. I still got you.
Yeah. See, that's when we started talking about this shit.
See, that's what happened. Somebody hit the button. China hit the button.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah. Oh, there he is. Hey, you're back. You're back, boss man.
Yeah. Dude, we're talking about the good shit. That's what happens, man.
Every time.
Dude, we make a joke, but that does happen
every
man.
time.
Like whatever software we're on, if somebody's like kicks on over at the FBI, they're talking about something cool.
Yeah.
What's up, Frank? That's
right.
Our handler. What? I'm sorry. The FBI interrupted us. What were you?
You were getting ready to jump in about the drone stuff over New Jersey.
Jersey, the Jersey drone thing, the flap. It was, a flap. It wasn't a flap. It was all over the world. We just heard about it here, but it was in England. It was in every Air Force. It was in every military base all over the world, right? And everybody was like, they shut down Wright Pat. So I'm in Ohio, right? I'm up here.
Hey, you know exactly where you're at.
Yeah. So I'm actually south of Toledo, but I grew. I lived in Dayton for a while, and
it's an old stomping ground of mine. So Port Clinton.
Oh, really? Oh, rad. Yeah, Kettering. I don't know if you've been at Kettering, but that's
a long time ago. But
yeah. Probably some bad things happen. But so like I've never. I don't remember, and I can't. I don't know if it's true, but I don't think they've ever closed the airspace for Wright Pat. As long as the Wright Pat's been there, like completely shut down, and they did that this last fall or this winter. Right? They're like completely. It was I can't remember what it's called, where they do a stop where there's like no air traffic over the base,
no fly zone.
TAMs.
Yeah, no TAMs. Yeah, for the whole base. And they're like, hey, no, we got drones. We don't know what's going on. And it's like, you don't know what the fuck. You don't know what the fuck's going on. That base doesn't know what's going on. No, like no.
Well, and it's crazy too when you consider the history of Wright-Patterson. Like you were talking about Roswell and the crash and the pieces. Wright-Pat is supposed to be one of the places that a lot of those bits went, whether it's the biologics or it was the actual craft went there. Right. And I like that you brought up Roswell, Chris, because it's really sort of the origin story of like the American cover-up, right? Because before that you had the Foo Fighters in World War II. They thought it was the Germans, and aircraft or missiles or whatever that the Germans had invented, but Jesse Marcel said on his deathbed that he was told to lie. Yep. General LeMay told him like you're going to say this, and you can even tell in the photo of him holding up the bit of what is definitely a weather balloon,
100%.
that he knows he's being yeah, it's bullshit. He knows it's bullshit. He doesn't want to take the photo, but he's doing. It's a major and a general is telling you to do something. But that's why I've always been so thankful that Jesse Marcel Jr. has come out and said so much about what his dad told him essentially. And there's so many other stories like that of military members who were confronted, and like the Office of Special Investigations (OSI). It's so weird too, because I was a cop in the Air Force, and OSI, like we have a relationship with OSI, obviously, because they do investigate things like drug crimes and sexual assaults and things like that.
Right.
But it always cracks me up because people talk about the OSI and they almost like revere them in this weird like CIA level way, and it's like, dude, not at all. Like I like maybe there's a couple people in OSI who are like you should be afraid of, but like at the end, it just makes me laugh having known how the sausage is made.
I have my own funny OSI story because they were
OSI, CID, all of them are it's military dudes, guys. Like and to be OSI, you don't even have to have been a cop. You don't have to have law enforcement experience at all when they bring you in. You just go through FLETC and some other stuff. But no, so Project Blue Book, right? Like you were talking about the psyop and the lies. Like a lot of the crap that comes out, even the things that people say to one another to make fun of people came out of Project Blue Book. Yeah. And it was like the Air Force's outward attempt to sort of bring all this information to light and study it and like talk about it, but it really was just a massive cover-up program. And so like at no point has the U.S. government been forthright with that information. And that was one of the reasons why when I started learning, like recognize like, oh yeah, no shit, like the Russians had their own space program, like duh, right? Like I wonder what was going on there. And there's a treasure trove of cool information. But if I could take you back to what you were talking about with like the Chinese, do you and this whole like thing about like factions, right? Like the U.S. has a backdoor with the Russians. First off, how much credence do you put into that idea, right? And then, do you think like the way that Diana Pasulka describes Roswell is they call it the gift site? I think is that what they call it?
Yeah, the gifting field. That was
the gifting field.
Yeah, that was actually Corona. So that's another crash site. Okay. I don't know if that's public yet, but there was a crash at Corona, New Mexico, and there's a whole bunch of crashes between like 42 and 49, 50 in that area. There's a guy named Chuck Wade who just passed, I think, last year, but he like did more research than anybody. Was actually in the field and had people out there and like archaeological, like sifting sand, like findings. And this guy has metal that there's a book that he wrote. It's called, I think it's The Plains of St. Augustine, I think is what it's called. Okay. But he wrote this book, and he paid, I don't know, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars to have these samples tested independently. Like he would find this stuff, and he would send it to the labs all over the place and not tell them what it was, and it came back, and they're like, but he actually in this book, he like just verbatim printed everything that they sent. And most of it's like, all the elements, that you can find on Earth, but in such purities and such mixtures, it's like, just fucking, nobody knows how this happened, right? And he was out there doing it all the time. So one of those fields was the Plains of St. Augustine. I think it was called St. Augustine. I could be wrong, but it's Corona. I think it's Corona, New Mexico. And
so Chris is going to look it up.
Yeah. So they're in there. That's the site. I'm pretty sure that Tim Taylor took. Gary Nolan and Pasulka too. And before that, I think to cover it up, they took a whole bunch of pop cans, beer cans, and a bunch of scrap metal and shit, and they just threw it over the top of it, right? So, like in the book, she talks about have specially tuned metal detectors. Well, shit, they're just finding anything not steel, right? Not iron, right? So anything not iron, right? That's there because that's everywhere, right? So you're going to be digging through a bunch of shit, but underneath that, there's panels. There's big parts of things down there. So. That's there, and they call it that, and that's one of the things you said, the gifting site. That's what kind of DeLong, says, in a lot of his books too, and I guess I give it a lot of credence. I give a lot of credence to DeLong because I think he was smart enough to get in, to know, and he learned a lot. And I think he's also kind of he's a punk rocker, right? So he just does shit what he wants. He just says. So
it is Tom DeLonge of Blink-182.
Yes, yeah.
That was
oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It was the first day I was like, we can't be talking about the same guy, but I'm going to look this up in the background.
Absolutely.
But it is
to the Stars Academy, yeah.
Oh yeah. No shit. Good for him.
When you learn that, it kind of makes sense about like why Angels and Airwaves is the way it is. You know?
I was an Angels and Airwaves fan over Blink for a long time, through high school. And
we won't talk about that blasphemy. I like Angels and Airwaves, but not over Blink. But I was just kind of curious if you thought like these donation sites. Yeah,
I've heard of like dumb shit like where that we found a craft in Mexico that was there just with the lights on running and the door open.
The keys in the ignition.
Basically, yeah. And then one of the things that he was talking about in his books and you know was like maybe they were just giving technology or crashing them on purpose in different places just to see what we could do, just to basically let us figure out who's going to be the strongest. Basically, kill each other off to figure out who's going to be the smartest and strongest, and then they'll deal with those people. Right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
that's kind of what I was.
Sprinkle it around until you guys kill yourselves out, and then the smartest will survive. We'll talk to you guys.
Right. That's kind of what I was wondering. Is do you think like these donation sites exist? Like the Chinese have this tech, right? And it's different maybe in some ways, maybe not that different, but you know, a different model, or from like, you know, it's like the difference between like a BMW and like an American sports car. It's like, hey, we'll drop the Mustang over here, and we'll drop the the M3 over here, or whatever.
Yeah.
And but I kind of think that what you just said about this sort of like fight, you know, you're picking almost by seeing who can get the most technological advanced, and then we'll talk to those people. I mean, it is a good filter to see what comes out the other end, because I mean, just on Darwinian science, right? Like the strongest will survive, and it's just like, why? I think it would occur to other organic life forms in the galaxy or the universe that this is just the way things are. The weak things don't survive. You don't build your spacecraft out of weak material. You know, all these other things. Like, do you think that I mean, I firmly believe that, you know, obviously we're reverse engineering tech. I think that is, I don't think anybody really doubts that anymore. But do you think that the Chinese have as robust a reverse engineering program as the United States do?
I don't know. You know, it's been interesting to see. I mean, if you hear the stories about like a lot of the operatives guys, there's the crash retrieval programs, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing that's, you know, recently, right? It's always been around, but a lot of those tie into non-nation states, and when you hear these CIA guys, and you know, you hear these, you know, XIC guys, or you know, XIC guys, whatever, talk about non-nation states, you're like, well, who the fuck is that? Well, think about it. Who would have the pockets to do that? It would be the military-industrial complex. It'd be like the Lockheeds, and it'd be the, you know, the Boeings and whoever, right? That's going to hire ex-operatives. That's going to have the pockets to do that. To have guys that want to pay. You want to make $500,000 this year? Cool. You go over there and you pick that shit up. You don't ask any questions, and you come back with it. Okay, cool. Right? Cool. I'll go. Right? I mean, there's a lot of guys.
Do that, yeah.
So that makes sense to me, right? So then, what is it? It's a race, right? So like anything that drops anywhere, there's a thing that's true, and it came out of Freedom of Information Act. It was from Brazil. Yeah, anything came out of the sky. I think this is really loosely based, but basically it was from the 50s and until even now, that anything that fell out of the sky was the United States'. And if you give it to us, we're going to give you a shitload of money. You go get it. If we can't get it before you do, you go get it and you give it to us, and it's ours. We're going to give you a shitload of money. We're going to give you guns, weapons, whatever the hell you want, right? We're just going to give it to you, but that's our shit. And we have a disagreement with a whole bunch of different countries like that. That's like, if anything comes out of the sky, it's ours. So that's real. That exists. So if you think about it like that, okay, so maybe, and it,
yeah,
I could see it happening. So it's the race to get it. So does China have a leg up? I don't know. Personally, and people will probably give me a lot of shit for this, but I think China's really good at copying things. China's really good at I can make this based on that, but I don't think there's a lot of innovation. That's in my mind. People have argued with me back and forth about that. Do you? Okay. I was going to say
we do.
There's a lot of I can copy this thing really, really well, but I can't come up with a new widget to add on to that, right?
Dude, when you go even you go look at like the J35 or the J20, they literally just look like, jokingly but not jokingly, Temu versions of the F-35 and the F-22.
It is.
And then their new 6th gen aircraft, which I take issue with immediately, because first off, the Chinese can't even get 5th gen aircraft right. There is no definition of 6th gen aircraft. So calling it 6th gen, this is just a propaganda campaign online.
Yeah,
and even then, it looks like every other, flat aircraft the United States has mocked up and talked about forever,
Yep.
you know, and I have yet to see really any of the capabilities that it has on any of the video that's come out about it, where, you know, it blows my skirt up, you know, and I think that the U.S. intelligence community and the military-industrial complex probably have a pretty good bead on what it is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways that we can detect and pick up and look at things that we don't even know. I mean, we were just talking the other day about, like, because of everything going on in Iran, like Iran buys a lot of the Chinese detection equipment, and it's not their state-of-the-art stuff, but it is the crap that they use most often, and the Iran had no idea that those F-35s from Israel were there, right?
Yeah.
And like, so just I use that to say that, like, you know, clearly there's still a lot of American primacy when it comes to our military, and I don't, you know, just I think to your point, the fact that these other aircraft looked exactly like the American ones, minus, like, you know, some little tweaks here and there. The one thing that cracks me up the most is you see pictures of some of these J-35s that have rivets on the outside, and it's like, bro, that is not stealth at all. When you have exposed rivets on an aircraft, like that's not stealth at all, you know. So it just, I think that you're probably right. Especially, I did not know that about the program the United States had about you know, taking control over whatever was down. I mean, when you look at it, would I say that maybe over the last 10 years really is when, like, the Chinese have, like, put enough pressure in the United States for them to recognize that, like, hey, maybe we have another peer over here? Yes, but definitely not post World War II, not at all. So, like, that this 70 years roughly, right, of time post World War II to where we're at today, like, the United States absolutely would have dominance. The global hegemony is ours, and it sounds like that tech wise would be too. And you know, the sort of control that the United States has over its tech and what it talks about, you know, the Chinese will always brag about whatever it is. You never hear them talk about failures, though the U.S. will acknowledge failures really often. And they'll put it in the news, you know. So I think that there is a lot of evidence that would point out that most of what China says and does is either copycat, not original in the innovative space, and is very much just a smokescreen to cover up. I think that's why they focus so much on drone warfare, is because they know that drones are going to make up a lot of ground. And obviously you see that a lot in Ukraine. Now we're kind of getting into this whole other area that Chris and I like to live in online too. But yeah, go ahead. It looked like you had a point you were trying to make, John, or maybe not. Maybe I was just in your face.
Well, just to circle back with the drone thing, I mean, no, that never got any answer. We had congressmen, we had senators, we had people. I mean, Trump's first thing was like, as soon as I get in office, I'm going to tell you what's going on, and he kind of fucking smoke showed that. He was just like, yeah, we know what it is. The FAA authorizes them, and then there was like a week later, or not even, the FAA came back out and was like, we didn't do that. It's like, no, that wasn't us, and everybody was just kind of like, so, you know, it kind of went away. But it's like, well, what the fuck was it? You know, you know, and there's all kinds of theories, but it happening globally, you know, if it's just the U.S., it's like, okay, that makes sense. But if it's happening in England, it's happening in Five Eyes countries for sure, and all the other countries as well, and it was just being kept quiet. So it's like, okay, are we just supposed to? Is it a desensitization thing where everybody's just like, okay, cool, fuck, whatever, it's just a drone, right? It looks like a plane, maybe, I don't know. You know, so you just walk away from it? Is it you know, more than that? Or is it just like collective consciousness becoming aware of things that have always been there, but now that we're actually to a different level, that we can actually see them and recognize them, and now we associate it with drones where they used to be weather balloons, you know. You know, that, go back to the weather balloon thing, I just wanted, because it popped up behind me because I just have fucking rotation, but it was like February 3rd, 2023, we shot down 3 other balloons that have never been declassified, none of the gun footage. We shot 2 $400,000 fucking missiles at one of them. We missed the first one. How do you miss with the first one, right? Like a heat-seeking fucking whatever that thing is, right?
I don't even want to know, man.
Right? It's a $400,000. We missed a drone? Like, what the fuck? And so, but they're like, yeah, we couldn't find them. Yeah, right, bullshit, right? There was guys on the ground up in Anchorage, I think, or wherever that was, that one, and it was like, yeah, here's a bunch of heavy equipment, here's a bunch of planes coming in, here's the C-130s, here's a bunch of shit, right? But they didn't find it, right? So that shit, you know, I've been emailing congressmen and senators ever since. I'm like, hey, where's the shit? As soon as Russia comes anywhere near one of our planes, the next fucking day we have 4K footage of Russia coming near us, you know, and smoking us with their flares or something, just being assholes. But we can't show you these 3 balloons we shot down. That same time that we shot down the big Chinese one, like, that's bullshit too, right? So what's going on, man?
your Jersey drone thing, like, and the fact that it was around the world, I've always wondered. It almost just seemed like somebody green lighted this whole thing and was like, "Yep, go ahead, and we're going to inundate the world with all of this footage. People are going to, OSINT like out there with their phone, right? And we're going to take footage, and it's going to hit the internet, and it's going to live there, and it's going to dominate the internet space, right? Like, what are they hoping to cover up if that's indeed what it is?
Right.
Who green lighted this whole thing to happen? And what was the point? Because it seems to be that there was no point, and it's not like the world was seeing the exact same thing everywhere.
Right.
It was all drones, but they were all different, and like and then too, like discerning between like what some dude just trying to like ride the hype train threw up in the air, himself, and like what is real and what isn't. And now you've got all this open source footage on X or these private sites, and it's like, well, what's fucking real, man? Like what is somebody's personal home drone, and what is something else, and what is AI? Because like lights in the sky at night is super easy to make with AI. It's not like there's not a very complex image you're talking about making. So it's just I want to know too, like what was that? And the other thing too, what was really weird with those weather balloons, it was, you may remember, not that long after there was that F-35 that went rogue and was just flying around,
30
and the
miles.
pilot ejected. Right. and it happened so close to the weather balloon thing. People were like, oh my god, it's the Chinese, and like immediately they were like, oh, we have reports of the F-35 landing in Cuba, and it now the Russians are in Cuba, and they've picked up the 35 landing there, and like so there's all this weird stuff with it. Why did that? I've never seen anything why the 35 went rogue. Like, it's supposed to have all these fail safes. It's it's a flying computer. It's a flying supercomputer. So that the proximity in time between the weather balloons and that F-35 was really close. It could be coincidence, because I can't really find an actual link other than like the proximity in time, but it's also enough to make you go, like, well, that's really odd.
Yeah. 22, I think it was Japan that went off the side of the boat there too. It was like a little bit close to that time, maybe a little bit after that. But there was some weird shit going on. And 16 or 18 went down in the kind of up in the top where they're looking for that drone shortly after that too, up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. One of those went down. A guy pilot popped out too, and that was all kind of. But like, how often do you hear of those things going down? Never, never on the soil, right? And those
not like that.
And those shoot downs was the first time that in America ever that we've taken action, military action, to shoot anything down on American soil that I'm aware of. That's what it was. What's it called? NORAD. That's ever taken any action to shoot anything down. Like the Canadians, which is hilarious.
Well, you have to go back to like the Battle of Los Angeles or something, right?
Yeah.
Would be the last time that it happened.
42.
But just for your.
Be right back, Chris.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to make the point that you said, Brandon, but for the Chinese like make everything but worse, right? The whole Temu argument. I did want to kind of point this out, which is very interesting, because a lot of people, right, were either for the United States helping Israel in this most recent conflict, or were like completely against it. It was, just like everything else on the internet.
A complete division, right? Just
complete division, right? Which is bound to happen. But a significant portion of Iran's anti-aircraft, anti-air grid is bought from China, with a lot of the rest of it bought from Russia, but bought from China. So Brennan and I were talking just last night about some of the reasons that soft power projection like can be a good thing. And no matter what you think or don't think about whether or not we should or should not be helping Israel over the skies of Iran, one thing that any military planner is going to want to know is when you get opportunity to have like real-time data about how what we're flying stacks up against what the defense grid is, that is invaluable data. So, and
that's what I've been heard about. The same thing about Ukraine, right? Is that we're just throwing all of the newest shit that we can throw at it.
Right.
Like just the experimental stuff, because it's just
that's a big
it's mayhem out there. Nobody knows what's going on, so we're just like, let's test it all. Try this out. See what happens, right?
That is definitely a big thing that happens. And then like you keep coming back to, just the psyop of it all. And it all starts, kind of starts with I agree with your assessment. It kind of starts with Roswell and then comes modern from there, because World War II really represents, I think, the last time that the nation just genuinely believed and trusted the government. Hey, the United States government is a net good, and everybody just kind of trusts the institution, right? I think World War II kind of marks the end of that era, and then coming forward, and like Roswell is one of those events where all of a sudden just like trust in the institution just starts fracturing bits and at a time, right? And Cascades. Now with the advent of social media and just how technologically advanced it's become. I mean, the computer, right, to say it that way, the AI, the algorithm can run the PSYOP on its own. It does. And it has.
I mean, there's so many. I mean, I'm going to grab my water, but there's so many that...
You're good, man.
Like, dude, it would blow your mind to see that they have AI bots trained to just fucking argue with people all day long about nonsense. And they have, like, esoteric bots, and they have, like, conspiracy bots, and it's just spreading bullshit, you know? I mean, like... Yeah. People are just arguing with bots all day long. I'm like, dude, you're wasting your fucking time. You're literally talking
it's so
to
funny
a computer.
You are, dude. It's so funny you say that because earlier today I saw that Elon was going around. He's like, well, I'm going to get rid of hashtags on X because it's not aesthetic. And it's like, well, maybe we like put a lot of effort into finding all these fucking bots on X and getting rid of them, you know. But unfortunately, it's traffic, right? And what does traffic drive? Well, traffic drives revenue, so you're never going to do that. Even though it is, it is detrimental to the conversation, and it's antithetical to the conversation that Elon talks about wanting everybody to have in this open forum of ideas, right? Well, if you have nothing but bots that are meant to be contrarian and they just spread bullshit, well, that just goes out the window. Like if your goal is to have this place where people can come and have open discourse, and it's keeping all that shit around is not securing that goal at all. You know, it just sucks to see that happen. But it's just, I like the way this has started, man. Like talking about like UFOs from the jump. Like how could we not?
Can I jump one more thing on that before we bounce off? So AI, like basically running the show, Dead Internet Theory. I'm fascinated with it. I love that topic. Did you guys see or do you remember in 2023, Sports Illustrated faced quite a lot of backlash because what they found was that there are AI authors that write for them online, and these AI bots have gone out and developed like their own headshots, and then came up with their own backstories for the author and like who it is, and then basically they just turn these AI bots loose and they scour the internet. They look at sports data, and then they're just like, you know, they're programmed to generate 3 to 4 paragraph piece of content for the adware to attach itself to, and then it's like these AI bots have just been running around doing this, and finally somebody caught on to the fact that it's like, you know what, because I believe, I'll have to look this up to make sure that I'm correct, but I believe Sports Illustrated is still connected to ESPN or somehow funnels back under the same umbrella. But the reason that this became, what's up, buddy? The reason this became popular was because a lot of people were noticing, hey, you guys have sure been offloading a lot of employees. There's sure been a lot of terminations going on, but how are you
how
still
this article still cranking
how are you still generating all these articles at this level of speed? And so that's when they looked into it, and then sure enough, it's just like a bunch of AI authors that have just been generating this stuff.
Well, that goes back to the theory that, I mean, what was it that popped out? We go back to Trump, right, for a second.
Yeah.
There's an AI, there's a quantum AI supercomputer that the U.S. has had for over 30 years that is so good at predictive modeling that it basically tells the future in so many, like, okay, probability engine, right? So it narrows it down to a small set of probabilities. And it's been doing that for such a long time that we get, based on game theory, we game it out. So if you can narrow down that window to the tiniest set of probabilities that it can come up with, then you have 4, right, or 2, 3, right? So it's that. So you just cover all those bases, and you basically covered your ass. So if you have that, if you have a quantum AI, AGI, basically at some point, right, 30 years ago, let's just go back 30 years, and if we had that at that point, basically, what can you do to combat that? Really? I mean, what can you do?
It's Gray's Sports Almanac.
It kind of makes you.
It's that, legit, legit. With the variation, right? Because I mean, you can't control every part of that, but you can get real damn close.
It kind of makes you wonder why the fuck they weren't using it to figure out what the hell was going wrong in Iraq and Afghanistan for 20 years. You know, if that if that was out there.
You're assuming that they would want to use it to altruistically affect what was going on in Iraq and Afghanistan, and not use it to cause what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan, which generates a hell of a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. You know, thinking like, I'm thinking about it the way of like trying to solve the problem and not spend so much money and spend so many lives. But you're right. Yeah, you know, the nefarious or insidious shadow government wouldn't want anything good to come out of that. So yeah, you're right. However, they're using it. Yes, exactly.
I think Jim Marrs hit the head really, really hard on Iraq, and he did that about 20 years ago when it basically we jumped in there during the first time we went in. The first or second? Was it the second? The second, sorry, excuse me. We've been in there so many times. But it was the Germans and the French were doing excavations in Iraq in, forgive me, but 23? 22, somewhere in there. And they said they found the Tomb of Gilgamesh. And Tomb of Gilgamesh was a myth, didn't exist. If you remember, Saddam Hussein said he was reincarnated of Nebuchadnezzar. He was a reincarnation of Nebuchadnezzar, right? So if you look into all that, supposedly they found all kinds of things, and the Sumerian tablets. I just posted this video that I cut together a couple months ago on my YouTube, my channel, and basically Jim Marrs, 20 some years ago, said, "Hey, they found all this stuff," and the U.S. was like, "Hey, we're going to go get that, right? That's ours. We're going to come get it." And so the Baghdad Museum was looted with precision, basically, and then I think ONI, who does the investigation? I can't remember for that part. It might have been.
I'm not sure. Forgive me.
But somebody, whoever did the investigation, basically was like, they said from the military said it was an inside job. There's commercial glass cutters that aren't available in Iraq. They walked past things that looked like it was worth $1 million that was just like cop replicas. They had the keys to the basement, went in there. Knew where everything was. That shit disappeared. And the crazy part, the thing that got me was like 3 months ago, the U.S. gave back 30,000 tablets and a bunch of shit, and they were like, "Oh, here, we got this. We're going to give this back to you guys." Yeah, here we go.
I remember that. It was painted as like we were protecting all this stuff that was going to get destroyed because we were going in there and blowing shit up. But wasn't there a Hillary Clinton email? Wasn't there a Hillary Clinton email where she mentions the Tomb of Gilgamesh, or is that a total fabrication?
I don't know. I wish there was.
Look that up, Chris.
Yeah. I hope there is.
I think there is. I was pretty sure. I don't remember. It could be one of those things where it was like it was total bullshit, you know. But I feel like I remember seeing there was an email where she referenced Gilgamesh. But like again, I could just be totally putting bullshit out there and being one of these bots.
No. Right now. No. And I'm going to jump on this real quick because you said the email. So like everybody thought Tom DeLonge was full of shit when this whole thing happened because he was on Coast to Coast. He was telling everybody, "Yeah, I got these advisors. I'm doing this thing. I'm doing this book. And everybody's like, "Dude, he's really lost it. He quit Blink-182," and everybody's like, "Dude, he's out of his fucking mind. Like, what is his problem?" And it wasn't until the WikiLeaks happened of John Podesta's email that all of it came out. Like legit. Yeah. DeLonge was everything he was saying was doing. He had all the emails with all the General McCaslin. He was talking to Edgar Mitchell, the sixth man to walk on the moon. All of them were talking to the White House, and they were going to come out. And Hillary was supposed to be the disclosure president. That was their plan, so that when she was elected, it was going to be like she's going to usher in disclosure, and all this shit was going to happen. And then Trump won, so it kind of fucking fucked everything up, which is wild, right? When you think about it, that's the backstory that I know of. But like everybody for sure was just like Tom DeLonge is full of fucking shit. And then the WikiLeaks happened. I remember. Like, legit, here's the emails. Like here's everybody on these chains, right? So,
dude, I'm learning that tonight. No, I feel dumb sitting here and talking to you guys about it. It's funny because Brandon gave me like a reading list, right, for the rest of the year. I have homework. Like this is like legit. I have homework, and I've launched into it this week. But then it's like a thing where I've been a Tom DeLonge fan because of his guitar playing and because of his lyrics since I was in high school. But the internet is like so bifurcated. It's like I never knew that he was over here doing this stuff with ufology. Oh yeah, you know what I mean. And I've been a fan of the guy for 15 years at this point.
Well, that was the sell. That was the big sell. He went to Lockheed, and there were some people in the IC, and he was like, "Hey, I want to be able to get this out for you guys." And basically, he said this in a lot of interviews. He's like, "You guys have painted yourself into a corner. Nobody likes you. Nobody comes out of college and wants to go work for the government. They want to go to work for fucking Tesla or Apple or something. Nobody, but like, if you guys are working on some serious shit, nobody's going to come out and help you out. You know why? Because you've lied to everybody. You've made them feel like they're stupid. You've gaslighted everybody forever. let me fix it. He was like, let me change it. Let me tell the stories to make everybody want to be part of your world and like, be part of your thing. And they're like, okay. He's like, I can speak to young people. You know, he's like, I could do this. I know how to do it. And people don't give him a lot of credit, but he did a lot of the first online platforms for major bands like Pearl Jam, 9 Inch Nails. Right. He handled all of the online web presence. They did all the fan club shit, like all that stuff. And he still has companies that do that to this day. So it's not like he's just some fucking idiot.
He's not an idiot. That's the thing about him. He never was an idiot.
Right.
He portrays himself that way for funsies, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's definitely not.
Well, he'll always be running down the sidewalk in his underwear to me.
There you go, dude. Just jumping off the bass drum with the giant fuck sign behind him.
Yeah, man.
Right.
But anyway, ChatGPT didn't show anything up for Hillary Clinton emails that reference Tima Gilgamesh, unfortunately.
Gilgamesh. Yeah.
Shocker. Yeah, it was probably fake news, dude. Went around there and but you know, I'll look again, but I feel like I have seen that, but I can't verify the fact that it was real. There's, especially with her emails, like there was so much crap that people put out there and was here it is, man, Pizzagate, it's, you know, she did this and or whatever, you know. The John Podesta rabbit hole is fucking nuts, by the way. I do think that he is Chester Bennington's dad, quite honestly. The resemblance is too uncanny for me to just not think so. I was actually going to ask you, we were talking about World War II a minute ago, but what you thought, or if you had any thoughts about Die Glocke, the Nazi bell.
Oh, yeah. Die Glocke. So, I mean, yes, and I'm guessing that probably was the Kecksburg incident in Pennsylvania. That
I agree.
We had that, fired it up, and said, oopsie. It probably came out of Red Pat and went...
Yeah. And trajectory makes sense.
Yep. Yeah. If you think about it, I don't know. A lot of people, some people have put that together, but yeah, I mean, we've done a lot of shit that we just kind of, you know, just let's pencil whip it.
Yeah,
let's see how this
rack
goes.
That one up as an L, boys.
Yeah.
The drawing boards.
Yeah.
Well, I actually agree with you. I've had that same thought because when you go back to the Kecksburg event and you read about it, the description that the people gave who went out and found this acorn-shaped device out in the woods,
humming.
And then the fire. What's that?
It was humming,
hot,
and
right?
humming,
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and the fire department's out there, the cops are out there, the locals are out there, and then of course, right, the military shows up, and this wasn't here, and it's covered up and taken away. But when you look at the description of the Nazi bell and you look at the description of what was on the ground there at Kecksburg, the timeline meets up. It looks the same, you know, and it also lends credence to the idea that it was an engine of sorts, right? And that the Nazis maybe were trying to figure out or had gotten close to figuring out, you know, some sort of anti-gravity or zero gravity energy source. And dude, it's actually kind of wild when you look at some of the stuff that the Nazis were working on, even like the V2 rocket, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And Operation Paperclip and the way that we brought all those Nazi scientists over there. Like, part of me is like, yeah, well, they were pieces of shit because they were Nazis. But, like, the other part of me is like, well, you know, why wouldn't you want to learn from these people? Because when you do the takeaway from it, you know, if the Germans had the capes and the manufacturing power and the size of the United States with the technology they were running, like, we're kind of lucky they didn't fuck around and win because of the things that they were doing, you know. And then obviously all the like Unit 731 medical stuff that was going on in Japan as well, which was
fucking
just
terrible.
Yeah, it is.
Everybody glosses over that. No, like
they do.
The Japanese fucked people up just for fucking sport.
No.
Not for sport. I mean, they called it science, but man.
Yeah, if you've ever read that book, like listening to some of the stuff, the experiments they put people through, it's like, well, we're going to give you like crackers and a 50-pound rucksack, and we're going to only feed you water and crackers, and you're just going to march around the fence until you die, because we know that crackers and water isn't everything that your body needs, but it is sustenance, and we're just salt and water. Yep, okay, 63 days for that guy, 72 days for that guy. I mean, these are things that the Japanese did, right?
The high altitude shit, let's throw you out of an airplane at fucking 50,000 feet or whatever to see what happens.
Right. Yeah. No, it's absolutely nuts, man. It's evil shit in ways. It's more. I mean, to me, it's like more demented than the crap that the Nazis were doing. I think, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Humans could be gross to one another. But the Nazi bell thing is something I find really interesting, and it's so funny that you mentioned the Kecksburg thing, because that's where I was going to go with it, depending on what you'd said. But I totally agree that that's what it was. But I'm gonna like hit the gear shift a little bit and head towards some of the Rosicrucian stuff that we were talking about
for sure.
I have such an interest in it because of the NHI downloads and also the esoteric hidden knowledge that's attributed to it, right? And like its ties to Templar. There's all these like crazy ties that Rosicrucianism has to Templars. I think get a lot more of the attention than Rosicrucianism, and but I know that none of us here are like experts on this stuff, but like we can have like a really cool, fun conversation. I know that you know more than us on these things, but one of the it might be fun. Like, how much of the history of it, like where it began, do you know, and like whether or not Christian Rosenkreuz was an actual person, or more so of like an aphorism of the whole of the Rosicrucian body of work? Well,
let's take it back. So I think everybody knows I'm a Freemason, I'm a Rosicrucian, and I'm a Knights Templar, right? So I'm like all of those things. Right?
We got it, ladies and gentlemen. We got it,
dude. Holy crap!
Yeah, and some other things too. But so that it's interesting to look at it from my perspective. So I got into the Freemasonry and everything just because I wanted to figure it out, right? I read all of Jim Marr's books, and I was like, I'm going to jump in this thing, and I'm going to bust it open in 2 weeks and tell everybody about it. And it wasn't like that at all, right? I got into it, I was like, this is fucking awesome. Like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, I feel like I'm home. Like, I feel like I belong. This is really, really cool. I'm like, I get no idea where people come up with any of the bullshit they come up with that you read online. Like, or fucking sacrificing kids, worshiping the devil. Like, none of that shit happens at all, right? And I've been around. So it's like, I don't know what's going on. I mean, in these people's minds or where they've ever got these ideas, but dude, like everything never been around. All the dudes have been around. That's never been anywhere close to any of that shit. So I'm just gonna put that out there. But going back to Christian Rosicrucians, I think that during the time that happened, it was probably a conglomerate of people that created that. And this is my own personal opinion, that it was probably a loose group of people that were scientifically minded. In a time when that would get you burned at the stake, right, for heresy. There's any time that you went against the church, you basically were murdered, right? That was it. You're a heretic. You're just going to get basically put on a stake and made an example of. So I think it was a way to, in my mind personally, I think it was like a 2 or 3-fold thing. One was to say that. Basically announce that there is another way. There's another group of people that are out there that want to use the scientific method. I mean, in a way to help people. So the thing with the Rosicrucians, one of the mottos is to heal the sick and that gratis. So it's basically to heal the sick for free, right? So that was one of the founding tenets of Rosicrucianism, to heal the sick for free. Right. Interesting. So if you look back, that's in the Fatima. Is it the Fatima? It's one of the 3 books, the Confessio, one of the 2. But basically, it's to heal the sick and that gratis. So it's basically to heal the sick for free, anywhere you can, anytime you can, and basically to better humanity in any way you can. Right. So a lot of that is doing things that the church would consider heretical. Right. So it's science and astrology, astronomy, like any of the things, right? So that would happen. So you couldn't practice that openly. So I think that those 3, it was 3 books, I think 3 years, 15.
It's like 16, 14, 16, 15, and 16, 17, right? The Fatima, the Confession, and My Chemical Wedding, right? Or the chemical wedding of Christian Rosicrucians.
My Chemical Wedding.
Sorry, I got to mix up.
My Chemical Romance.
References.
Now,
I know, right?
Now I'm crossing Tom DeLonge with My Chemical Romance, but the Chemical Wedding of Christian Rosenkreuz, right?
Yeah. So,
cool.
but basically, it was it's like what we get back to. It's coined the term the Invisible College, right? So it was a bunch of intellectuals that had the knowledge and had the esoteric background to be able to heal people. Right, to be able to help, to be able to do things, but if you did that in public, you'd get murdered, right? So so how do you do that, and how do you advance society at the same time, right? So basically, I think it was just kind of a rallying cry to the people that also felt the same way to join up, basically, with the Rosicrucianisms in this invisible college, or at least, and it's not so much of a a complete fuck you to the church. We're going to do this. It was more of like it can be compatible, right? In my mind, it was like
right.
we could do this
I agree
at
with
the
you.
same time without completely going against
Sure.
all of our traditions and all of our faith, right? Because if they just came out and said fuck you, the church is wrong, they would have just got nailed to the stake right there.
That's a bad
Right.
position to take. Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of the idea being like, hey, you can go in there and have the priest pray over you. That's fine, but you can also come back to my house and I'll give you some antibiotics and like, we'll get this taken care of. And it's probably the prayer that healed you. But
yeah. Well, I mean, and I think that the thing with Rosicrucianism is it's both, and that's what gets weird. So you mix mysticism and occult knowledge with science, and I think that's what really Rosicrucianism is, and at least in my experience, from what I've seen personally and the people I've interacted with, and the things that I've been a part of, that's kind of what it is. It's like the marriage of esoteric knowledge and spiritualism with science is a shit word, but that's about the best thing I can come up with, right? With actionable intelligence.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah.
Right? That's the best way I can explain it, because there are things that are suppressed that are out there that could heal you, but they also could kill you.
Yeah. Well, we listened to you talk about like the origins of it. If you look at it as this science and for the betterment of humanity at a time when you can't be public about these things, but some of the mysticism that's tied into it. Are you familiar with like Brian Majerowski's book by any means?
No, what's the name of the book?
It is. Oh man, the name of it is now coming out of my brain. I got it over here somewhere.
If you can't pull
but
it
one
out
of the
right
things
now,
he talked.
then it's an opposite of a flex. As soon as you go like that every single time, I expect you to come back up with
the book.
Well, I had to rearrange. I rearranged all my books because I made piles to take pictures for you.
For me, I know.
So
it's all my
that's
fault.
why they're all jacked up. No, I'm just saying that's legit. Like the reason why they're all out of order. No. Anyway, one of the things he talks about in his book is that the earliest Christians, and maybe Christian isn't the right word to describe them, but like what became like the Christians, they've gone and done all this study on a lot of the pottery and things that they've used, and some of these amphorae that they used, and that they found all of these traces of hallucinogenic plants inside of them.
Yeah.
And he basically says, like, Christians today are not going to like what I have to say, because basically what I'm saying is your originators were high.
Yep.
Okay.
They were a mushroom cult was one of the terms that I heard. Right?
Well, yeah, there is that book. I can't remember the name of the author who wrote that book. The something in the mushroom, but no, essentially that these people are like the original quote unquote Christians, and they were high, right? And they were using all of these things that they knew were going to get them to an elevated state of mind, and they were used in like a medicinal way as well, And this is like a small microcosm of the things he's talking about in his book, but it's relevant to this conversation.
Actually, a frater of mine and a brother of mine, P.D. Newman, author, that's his whole trip, man. He's done years of research on entheogens and how they've shaped Christianity and a bunch of other religions as well, and how there's actual evidence for it that he's been able to prove that's true. I mean, even when you look back at the Egyptian mystery schools, one of the ritual there was they would just pump you full of entheogens. So basically, you're just you're high in psychedelics,
tripping balls.
They throw you in a pit, like basically under temples that was dark, it was full of poisonous snakes, and people that were just beating you, and you'd be down there for 3 days without food and water, and you'd have to fucking figure it out, and you'd come out if you lived, right? And then when you did, you're basically reborn, right? So that was part of one of the rituals of the mystery schools.
Look at us doing the things we were talking about the aliens doing to us, right? Here's all this cool tech. I'm gonna put you in the ground with a bunch of Egyptian asps high off your ass on Blue Lotus tea, and you're gonna figure life out. I mean, but
or not.
or not. Yeah, you will or won't, my friend. That's what we know. Well, it's like the vision quest in Native American history. It is. It's pass or fail, dog. Like, that's it, man.
So he didn't
check,
make it.
no check. That is all right. Cool. well, we'll get his body out of there. But no, it's like a vision quest. It's every culture seems to have one in one way or another. But the tie I was trying to make is that a lot of this information, like he learned and kind of like is backing up now by a lot of this like this archaeology, essentially in science, right? Is this had to have stayed alive and like traveled down the like linear lane of time and made its way from out of the Middle East, and then also the Hellenic cultures as well. This is another group of people he's researching and talks about, like, hey, a lot of these same properties exist. These are all groups of people that share the Mediterranean, but that it's not a hard logical leap to say that it made its way into Europe and then existed in these small sects of people, and and made its way into these ideas like Rosicrucianism, right? And medicine. Like there's something to be said about going to see the witch in the woods to get yourself healed, and sort of the taboo that exists there. But I say that because it's the cut witch in the woods that has all of these remedies and healing properties with the the things she finds around the forest, and it's this lineage of other people who have been doing it. It's passed along through word of mouth, and maybe a book, right, a spell book, and that's the form in which it exists, and it's handed down person to person. But I don't know, how much of that do you think made its way into? Do you think any of that had, like what I was saying, like tied into how like the medicine aspect of Rosicrucianism exists?
Of course, Chris, do you have something too, man? No, you were trying. You had
I don't want to detract from your answers.
It's okay.
So please
I
go
have an
ahead,
answer. It's good. I want you to say it. Go ahead.
Well,
I'm excited
I was
about it.
I was just thinking about the really interesting parallels of, because you were going back, I don't know what time frame that you were thinking about specifically, if it was still like the 1600s, but the idea of the taboo of going to see the witch in the woods, right, in order to get like secret types of healing, because it was antithetical to the orthodox of what society would say is acceptable, a taboo, right? And then it made me think about 2020 and COVID, and when we all lived through that, and then the idea that modern medicine has become like the acceptable orthodoxy, and you can't think outside of those realms of what like acceptable medicine is, because of ivermectin, something we've known about for years. But then like how quickly people kind of devolved from once, and this also speaks to the de-evolution of in people and the trust in like our institutions. As soon as like one thing crumbled, then all the rest of it went, and they were like, I personally know people in my life that started ordering veterinary grade ivermectin because they couldn't get it from anywhere else, and I was like begging them. I'm like, please don't do it like that. Like I can help you get human grade ivermectin. Like, yes, there are studies that says that it works, but don't do the actual meme and eat the horse paste. Like, please don't. But as soon as people start going down that realm, it's funny how the deconstructionism starts with one thing, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, if I was lied to about that, and then they just start walking back, and it's backwards. Like, where does that end? That can be a very dangerous thing. Exactly. Though. But I really didn't mean for that thought to detract from your point, John. No. Please,
No. I think that's it. I mean, because you think about it, at the time, you're talking the 1600s. I think Bacon came out with the New Atlantis in like 1627, right? So you're looking at these, and that was kind of the beginning of, you want to say like the Enlightenment at the time, right? Or whatever you want to call the Golden Age. Enlightenment. It was kind of along those times. Everybody's coming up with these ideas that were basically hearkening back to older ideas, right? But, you didn't have, the king would let the old lady in the woods live, right? Because the king went there when he got a wart on his ass or whatever, right? So like that happened, right? So that it wasn't like a thing. And I think that there was that mix of religion and spirituality that kind of got in the way of the norm, right? So you have that whole thing where like you have to you have to be healed, but it's going to be this way, right? And it can't be the other way, right? But so there's where it becomes heretical, right? So it's like, well, you're not getting healed at the church, you're going to the old lady in the woods, right? But you're still getting healed, but we're praying for you too. So we really did it. Like, so who did it, right? Like, well, who cares at this point? But like you said, you have these societal norms where it's just like, well, yeah, we can't do that. But it's always been that weird dichotomy of you can't have it all, right? You can't have the entire thing. So you separate it to good and bad, dark and light, black, the whole thing, right? Where, like I said, like a hammer can build a house, but it can also destroy one too, right? So
Right.
how do you keep that balance? And I think that's what it's all about. And I think that's kind of what during the Enlightenment, what everybody was trying to do is like, well, we don't have to really prescribe to one side of this. We don't have to be the dark. We don't have to be the light. We can be in the middle. And I think they did that through intellectualism in my mind, right? In a way that spoke to people on a larger scale, I think. And it was the beginning of that, right? Where we can do this in a way that even the most devout people, they're on the religious side, can see the value of it. And then on the other side as well. Now, like I said, like the other side is like, it's not just I know these plants and I can make you better. It's there's a combination of the esoteric and the biology or chemistry or whatever you want to come up with to make something happen. That's my 2 cents. What I've seen from Rosicrucianism, parts I've been in. That's kind of what I've seen. But it's also more of a personal alchemy. Alchemy is tied to everything too, and it's more about your own, basically going inside yourself and seeing everything that's inside yourself that you can make better. And the Philosopher's Stone is basically hardening yourself, your own soul, your own mind to become a better human. How do I do that? You work on yourself, right? Nobody likes to sit in a room by themselves for 10 minutes in the dark, like, and with your own thoughts. Fuck, people would rather go out and get shot at, seriously, than sit there by yourself and think about yourself, right? Seriously, who wants to do it?
Give me a problem I can put my hands on, man. I feel that way 100%.
Right? So that's the hardest thing to do, is be alone with yourself and figure your shit out internally. And that's what I think the internal alchemy is of Rosicrucianism, is to be able to turn that lead into gold inside of you, because it's all in there. You just got to work on it.
So you feel like a lot of the sort of physical outcomes that people attribute to Rosicrucianism are actually just these personal ideas and attributes, basically. That the idea of the Philosopher's Stone and alchemy wasn't really turning all these different metals into the elixir of life that it was. Got you. Okay.
Yeah,
Where do you think a lot of that came from, then?
Well, I think all of that had to be hidden in allegory and in symbolism, right? Because at the time, I mean, a lot of it's like, well, for those with the eyes to see or the ears to hear, right? I mean, like if you couldn't say, go in the woods and sit by yourself and take 15 deep breaths, and right. It was kind of like you had to hide it, because you got to remember at the time there were still people getting burned literally at the stake for heresy for any of these things, right? So it was more of a connection to yourself, and I mean, I guess we could say to a higher power, but now we can call it whatever. It's a non-human intelligence, whatever it is. You can call God a non-human intelligence. You can call it an alien, whatever. But right, it's something that's not human that you can communicate with, right? And maybe the ethnogens did it. Maybe meditation did it. Maybe the combination, right, of ethnogens and meditation and spiritualism and ritual for sure. I would say ritual for sure did it.
Yeah.
And what did that do? What kind of knowledge, what kind of downloads did you get? What did that turn you into as a different man after that? And then what did you do in society after that? Did you go out and fix everything that you could? Did you heal people? Did you help all the people that needed help? Did you just do everything else altruistically? Like, oh man, I'm just going to do everything I can to help everybody, right? Because once you start working on yourself, you want to help everybody else, right? And just do those things. So in my mind, that's kind of how I think Rosicrucianism, Templarism, in a way, kind of spun off of that, and it was a lot of, and I'm just sorry, I'm just rambling, but
it's super interesting.
I think Templarism, in a way, was a way to capture disparate cultures, ethnicities, and religions, or whatever you want to call it, right, or rituals, and basically make a big conglomerate of it and hold on to those things that are true. Templars would share what they learned, what they knew, and what they learned of their rituals and their things with the cultures they interacted with. So the Sufis and a bunch of different disparate cultures that you can come up with, right? And they all had like rituals, but they all had like a little taste of the same thing. So they were all respectful enough to be like, okay, this is what we do. Teach me your rituals, I'm gonna teach you yours. We're gonna keep it. And then I think Templars had it in themselves to keep it. And basically, it was like a potpourri of everything they can come up with, and just keep it going, so that, man, that civilization burned out. They just completely got wiped off the map. But we have this part, the essence of what they believed and what they did, and we kept that in our own thing. And we just kept going with it.
You think that was kind of born from them marching from Europe all the way to the Holy Lands and then back, and that just by virtue of getting a chance to visit, almost makes them like the kind of the OG unconventional warriors, if you think about it in a sense like that, because if you're willing to sit down and share a meal and talk about things like that with somebody from another culture, especially as a Christian, without coming at it from the lens of conversion. I'm going to sit down here to convert you. That's how a lot of people come at problems or come at relationships, especially in other cultures. But if you're willing to sit down and actually break bread with somebody and just share back and forth, right? And then it seems like they were willing to take that and like turn it inward. And what can I glean from this versus is like, how can I affect this?
And not only that, they used it. They took it and they used it and they actively taught it to the other brothers, and they incorporated it in their rituals, believe it or not, in their degrees. So it was like keeping that tradition alive in essence, right? Yeah. So it was interesting.
It's interesting to hear you talk about like the protocols and the rituals involved in like the downloading, because obviously like not to keep blazing Dr. Pasulka, but like this, all of what you're talking about is a lot of what she discusses in Heaven Can Wait, right? Yeah. And these experiences that saints went through, and these downloads, right? And all these other examples she gives in modernity, like Jack Parsons talking about it, but like this culture of downloads and rituals, it goes back, and you were mentioning soldiers like Knights Templar, like even the Roman legions had the cult of Mithras, like, and this was something that they had to hide. It wasn't meant to be you leaving the inner circle of the Roman legionary, right? And when you look at Mithras, it is this mystical, esoteric religion, from the Near East, and it involves all of this ritual and the download of information and this practice over and over and over again. And when you look at all of this, it has this one theme, right? If you like spiderweb this at the center, you go like Christianity over here, and like the way that these saints just sat all day in thought and prayer and protocol, and they have these experiences with angels. And then you have the Rosicrucians doing the same thing, the cult of Mithras. Like, they all come back to the fact that it's protocol, and it's the way that you make yourself better. It's almost the way that you're opening yourself up to this information, right? And it's like that's the through line, I think, is the point I'm trying to make here. Is the through line is the protocol. And it seems to be, and tell me what you think, like that anybody almost could do this. And I think that there's this belief that it's just for a certain person, but it's not, right? No. You would agree with that?
No, I would completely agree with that. And like I might add that even indigenous tribes, Native American tribes, same thing. Same thing in Native American. We have same type of ritual interactions with, they call them the sky people, right? They literally, that's what they call them in Native Americans, and I think I don't know if she touches on it or not, but basically they all have a common thread as well with the Native Americans call it the white buffalo calf woman, the lady in white, right? The white lady. Yes. The Virgin Mary, we call it in Christianity.
Oh, and not that. Correct. Not that lady in white.
Yeah, that's
different white lady.
Yeah, different white lady. So like that's a reoccurring thing that happens regardless of time, culture, continents, whatever. It's a lady in white coming down, teaching you things, and basically foretelling things that actually come to pass, and a bunch of different things. And this happened in ufology, it's happened in Christianity, it's happened in Native American. So it's a common theme as well. So what is that? Is that collective consciousness? Is that an actual being? Is that some type of non-human intelligence that interacts with us? I mean, it could be all the above, probably. I mean, but it happens through cultures and space and time. So what is that? It's a throughput, right? Like you said, it spiders out from that, right? So if you can,
correct,
and I do believe you're right. I think you're correct. I think anybody can do this, right? It's not, you don't have to be part of anything. You could just be alone with yourself and concentrate on your thoughts.
What do you think about, so this goes back to a poll that I saw on Tim Pool. He was talking about, and I can't remember what outlet put it out, but basically it was like upwards of 40% of the youngest culture doesn't have like what they would consider to be an inner monologue inside themselves. Have you seen this data? Where it's like, I think most of us kind of go on about our day, and I just take it for granted that I speak to myself inside my head about everything that's going on around me, and I kind of have this, that's how I perceive my thoughts, is kind of like a me and a me just kind of talking back and forth. But that's my inner monologue, right? And I'm very auditory, so it's always noises that I'm interpreting. But if you have that idea that, you know, coming up the younger culture, they're so driven by outside stimuli that there's nothing internal that's even happening. It's the idea of the non-player character, the human non-player character in the world. And do you think, like, if a person is like that, if they have no true inner monologue or they can't conceive of one, like, would they be able to participate in this deepening of thought?
Maybe even better. I mean, you're not getting in your way. You're not getting, yourself in the
Right.
way.
The idea of
You're not standing in your own way.
an empty cup, you think?
Yeah, but I think that's
Okay.
scary too, because I know that there's psionic weapons that have been used, that are in use still, that can influence thoughts, actions, feelings, emotions. You know, it's all electronic, electromagnetic, all those things, right? That can happen, right? I mean, the stuff that's publicly available is that, you know, hey, we can put sounds in just your ear. We can make somebody talking just in your ear from 500 yards away or whatever, right? We can beam this microwave at you, and you can feel dread, fear, scared. You just feel completely like somebody's watching you. You just start getting paranoid, right? And that's all electromagnetic spectrum. That's not pseudoscience. That's not esoteric shit. That's fucking science, right?
There was a History Channel documentary back in like 2005 that shows it's a very, very, very basic concept of what you're talking about, but just shooting microwave radiation at people and making your skin feel like it's boiling from 500 yards away. And they showed it on the History Channel, right?
It's LRAD, I think. Is it LRAD?
Yeah, exactly.
Crowd
it's
control,
like
right?
the very most basic form of what you're talking about, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I mean that's been in use against our own people. I mean, I can't prove it, but it has been, right?
Havana syndrome.
Huge Havana syndrome, all of that stuff, right? So a lot of the UFO thing starts creeping into the psychic aspect of everything, right? Where, you know, the whole psi side of everything, where, you know, where does the line draw, right? Is it consciousness? Is it nuts and bolts? Is it both? I think it's both. In my mind, I think it's both. I think it's one and the same. I mean, there's two camps, I think, that are just like, oh, it's nuts and bolts, or no, it's all consciousness, or it's, you know, just this thing, right? But I think it's both. I think it's something we can't understand. But I think it's conglomerated together. You know, it's that's kind of how the way it is. So, like, in the inner monologue thing is interesting story. I think that I want to imagine that everybody can do it. Some people are Michael Jordan. Like, I can shoot a basketball, but I'm not Michael Jordan, right? Everybody can do it.
Yeah.
You know, it might take practice to make it happen, but I think there probably are some people that are just naturally better at it than others, right? Like, I can't shoot for shit. Like,
I agree.
I've tried a lot.
I was just gonna back you up, man. That, like, you know, you can practice for hours and hours and days and days and days, and you will never be as good as Michael Jordan, because you're right. Some people have the natural inclination to just be good at something very specific, and that's why you have people like Michael Jordan or whomever else you want to think of.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back to the Lady in White thing.
Oh, yeah.
And specifically the Chris Bledsoe.
Yeah,
and
huge deal with that. Yeah.
It is. You know, there's this like apocalyptic conversation. Exactly, around it. What do you think about Chris Bledsoe and like his testimony about, first off, the things he's experienced and some of the stories that he's told are wild. And the fact that his children have had these same experiences, his family, and like the ordeals he's gone through, you know, with health and then the community and all of this other thing. But like, you know, he went on Sean Ryan. He's been on those other shows where he talked about, you know, things with the Lady in White, and he can't talk about them, but he knows it's real. And like you said, the apocalyptic connotation, like, what do you think about that?
Well, I loathe every time everybody says, "Well, you know, like I know told me." And it's like, God, just shut the fuck up.
I
but,
know.
You know,
I'm with you there. Yeah.
But I've known enough. I've met enough people to know that I mean, everybody can be psyoped, right? And of course, right?
Totally.
But I mean, just disparate conversations and correlations that don't make any sense to know. You know, like those two people, I mean, they're not trying to psyop me, but basically what I'm getting at is that if the IC in any form, if you want to imagine, personal, private, governmental, whatever, is very interested in people who have the ability to communicate with anything that's non-terrestrial or non-human intelligence, right? Because they can't quantify it, they can't do it themselves, it's not a switch they could flip. So they're really interested in the people who actually have these experiences. They're not. They want to have the experience. They want to have connections to the people that have the experiences because they can't have the experiences, and they don't. But so they want to understand what the hell's going on. So they attach themselves to the people. There's people that you'll never know about. There's probably 100 people, maybe more, that have had the same type of experience that you'll never know about. That they have people that have already gone through the lengths that the IC is already in contact with, that are monitoring, that are that have already been part of it all over the world, right? That's happening. It's not just America, right? It's everywhere. So
for sure,
they want to know what the hell's going on because it's not happening to them. So they latch onto these people, right? Now, you guys know just as much as I know that that's not just a one-way street. They're not just going to show up and take notes, right? They want to control that whole situation in the narrative, right? So they're going to make things disadvantage, to advantage them and nobody else, because we don't want the Russians to figure any of this shit out, right? Or the Chinese, right? For God forbid. So we're going to probably psyop the shit out of everybody else who gets around, disinformation, anything around that too, and sprinkle in a bunch of other cool tech that make it look like magic, so that anybody that sniffs around is going to be way off the trail of whatever they're trying to get into. I've spoken to Chris. I've talking to a lot. Ryan and I've spoken a lot. His son, before he started his podcast, like one of my first time he was ever on a podcast was on my podcast, and we talked on the record, off the record for years. And I think there's a lot. I think it's all of that. I think there's some real shit going on and some real experiences. There's also been a influence of control by whoever you want to call it to steer a narrative in a way, for good or bad, whether they know it or not. Sometimes you're so close to the fire you can't feel the flames, so I mean that's from me looking from the outside of it, right? Like because I've seen it kind of that pattern happen before, and I'm just kind of good at picking out patterns. It's like, okay, this is what's going on. So it steers the narrative into ways like, is it Hathor? Was that Hathor who came? Hathor came and saw it. The lady was Hathor. Okay, so it was Hathor this time, right? Okay, what we're doing right here, right? So I mean, like, I don't know, like, so I guarantee that he had an experience, and he still does. I guarantee the people all over the planet have for time immemorial. That's just happening.
Correct.
But what's the modern day narrative, and how are they using it now? Because you're having people that are obviously ex-CIA, NASA, like whatever, right, coming out and endorsing and latching onto them. My personal opinion, if you have John Alexander showing up, you should run the fucking other way.
Right. No, I agree with you, man. This is where the psyop really starts to get messy, because there's just behind you, the difference between counter intel and a psyop, right? Like there's people that are putting information out there that is accurate and also untrue, and they're muddying the waters on purpose. And it's like, how do you know who to trust? Like, I think a lot of people lost faith in Lou Elizondo a long time ago, but some people still do. And like, I think like some people are very much in the camp of like Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp. I think what they're doing is admirable. And then you have you got his picture behind you, darn it. His former Air Force guy, his name just flew out of my head. David
Grush, yeah.
Is it David Grush, yeah. Right? Whether he is counter intel and all these things, it's so hard to tell. Because once they do, like you said, the concern becomes once somebody gets a hold of them and they start having meetings, and you go in and you're talking to the man, you're talking to OSI, right? Or you're talking to the CIA, whatever the IC apparatus is coming after you,
right?
They're telling you this information. Maybe they're confirming things you're saying, and like all these tactics they go through, and now you become unwittingly a tool, and the accurate info you're putting out there, the things that you've seen with your own eyes and your experiences, is now tainted by all this stuff. And so they ruin the people who are out here just trying to disclose and share their personal experiences by latching onto them like these parasites and feeding them this information that then gets discredited, a year down the road, 6 months down the road, and it makes them look stupid, and this is a tactic that Project Blue Book was using as well. And this is a common tactic anyway in counterintelligence and things that, because it works. Exactly.
Well, that was one of the reasons I was asking you all the way back up at the top if you think that we have like a pool of things that this is the stuff that China's allowed to know about, because we know that it leads to dead ends, because I knew that we were going to circle around to the end and talk about offensive and defensive psychological operations, because you guys know, based on just all of the personalities that you've put out, right? It's like sometimes the idea that there might be something that's true in the pool, right? And so this is like defensive psychological operations. How do you discredit the information that's out there that could or might be true? That's kind of the stuff that you were just talking about, Brandon, when you say like, hey, latch on to an individual and then feed them like information that you know is going to be discredited. But why would you do that? Because maybe you knew that something that they had in there was a kernel of truth, and now it's thrown out. Throw the baby out with the bathwater as soon as everybody finds that out. Versus offensive psychological operations then would be like, hey, we want to introduce like an entirely new idea into or narrative into the population, and then have it, you know, make it seem like it, you know, is organic and grassroots and it grows up, you know, or it has to come from a credited, you know, disclosure, because it's like we want to lead the trail away from what the truth is. And so this is just like all a false trail in the beginning. In the
institution that it's coming from.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why I was asking that question up top, because it's like we know for a fact, or anybody that spends like, if you just spend a day running down Reddit, right, or even just on, you could do this with like Wikipedia level, like you'll find out that this stuff has happened and like has credibly happened, you know. So
and I don't get me wrong, I always say this too, but like, God, I am so happy I'm an American and I live it, and I'm fucking proud of our country and for all the shit that we've done. I mean, there's shit that happens all day, every day that people wouldn't even fucking imagine, so that we could go watch baseball and just have a life and have kids and do all the shit that there's unfathomable shit that people put themselves through every fucking day just so we could be alive and do the things we do. I promise. Yeah. I'm so thankful for that. And
do you sometimes wish that you could be one of those people that just goes watch a baseball game and has no care in the world? Just enjoy your bread and circus and just not know.
Ignorance is bliss.
I know. It's always a big joke, man. This is, my friends are like, oh yeah, my friends are all like, dude, I can't tell you any sports, anything. Like I can tell you like the Kecksburg incident and like all this other shit. My friends, you put a gun to my head right now and ask me who won the Super Bowl, I'd be like, I have fucking no idea.
Daggone it.
Right? No, I'm just that guy. I'm like, I don't know, but yeah, like when you said, I'm the guy at the party where they're like, "Oh yeah, did you see that thing?" And I'm like, "Does this guy really want to know what I think?" Or, like, I don't know. I really want to get into that.
Hey, listen, man. If you start pulling on this thread, it's gonna the sweater's gonna come apart. You're gonna hear all about it.
My wife's gonna pull me out of this fucking place real quick. And
don't ask him that.
No, you got the podcast right.
Part of me wants to like ask you like who you trust. You know what I mean? But like that, I don't want to put you in a bad spot, right? Because
I mean, dude, I don't even trust myself half the time. Like,
fair enough.
Seriously, I mean, you gotta.
Your own perception can be easily defeated.
You are not immune to psyops. None of us are. I mean, I think just being aware of them is a big help, right? Just being aware that can happen, and just to know that your bias and your belief can be changed and altered by fucking anything, chemicals, electronic, you know, just the social media feeds and everything like that. But, you know, like. I don't know. I think I'm pretty good at just pulling in like everything. Like I don't accept everything at face value, but I'll pull it all in and like categorize it, right? Like, and then when you see patterns that reappear from disparate sources, that really interests me. Where it's just like, wow, that doesn't, you know, like that whole Jim Marrs thing, like 20 fucking years ago, he came out with that, and then I start following the, you know, the little evidence now 20 years later that like, oh yeah, here we give it all back. The U.S. is holding on to it. We you know, we got it back for you, kind of shit. It's like. Right, so when you get down to some of those things where you're looking at it going, man, you got to do your own homework. Nobody does that. Everybody just takes the soundbite and the face value and all that stuff, and nobody really looks and researches and digs back and seeing. And the other part of that, a good friend of mine, John Luke, you know, it shows the people. Like there's this crazy relationship of people that, you know, like this guy is related to, you know, this person who was like the captain of this, and he, you know, he's been in, he was a special ops guy that was in psychological warfare in World War II, but now his grandson is like, here's a good one for you. Whitley Strieber. You guys know Whitley Strieber? He's an author,
I do.
Right? Yeah. Communion, all that shit. His dad was, you know, in the Air Force in all these kind of fucking mind control things forever. Right. He was he put in a Skinner box when he was a kid. He was subjected to all this fucking horrible psychological mind fuckery forever, right? With MK Ultra stuff. But he's the guy that's coming out talking about getting abducted by aliens and just pushing it out there. And he was a horror author before that too, right? So
Right.
like, so it's like
That book cover gave me like nightmares when I was a kid, seeing it at like Barnes and Noble.
Yeah.
It's one of the creepiest book covers there is.
Yeah.
No,
So-
his story is nuts. I agree with what you're saying. You know, it's like when you look at the history of him, it's like, well, you would be pretty good psyop. You know, you just kind of have all the markings of one. Doesn't necessarily make you one, but you know, when you it's kind of like if it walks like a duck and it sounds like a duck, it's probably a duck, you know.
Yeah.
But I like what you were saying before about when you look at information, I ask you like who you trust. You know, and
right.
you say, well, like I trust you trust yourself. You say you don't trust yourself sometimes, but like
Yeah.
I think kind of what you were getting at is that you look at the information and you maybe don't look at
The source.
people specifically, right, as credible. Like you may think this person's a little more credible than this person, in my opinion, right? But it kind of goes back to that analogy of like when the bird lands on the branch, what does it trust more, the branch or its wings? And
there
you
you
are trusting yourself, and you know what your discerning skills, you know, and
Right.
maybe you get it wrong, maybe you don't, but I
Right.
think that's what everybody does at the end of the day, and that's sort of like the confidence I think probably that you get from being a member of an organization, probably like you know the Rosicrucians, and the sort of ability in your own thinking skills and the way that you're able to run through these mental protocols which you have to develop, you know, to trust that information.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. I mean, and then after a while, you get the sniff test. You're like, no, that's just bullshit.
Mhm.
I mean, everybody
The
knows
sniff
when you're just
test.
getting bullshit. You're just like,
sure.
that's just terrible.
I'm pretty good at the sniff test.
Yeah, and you get the feeling. You're like, this is just bunk. But then the same part, like when circling back, I mean, like you know, like the Bob Lazar story, right? Like Bob Lazar was just fed all kinds of shit. Like here's a bunch of stuff, and he was
Right.
like, and he's the first one to say, I don't know if any of it was true. I thought maybe they were just screwing with me. Maybe it was just trying to see what would get out. Like, you know, about all of the
Right.
stuff, like, you know, humans being containers for souls and all this shit. And it's like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
you know, if you look into all that stuff, it's like, well, is that part of the PSYOP? You know, the same thing is like, Kit Green was, you know, you ran the CIA Weird Desk and all that stuff. And there was an email leak that came out that he was like, they took him in somewhere and they were showing him pictures of supposed alien tops. And he's like, they're just fucking with me. He's like, and he's been this guy, literally, they're just fucking with him. And he's been the guy, like, the charge of CIA fucking Weird Desk, and they're fucking with him. So it's like, you know, if they're fucking with the guy who's supposed to be in charge of the CIA Weird Desk, like, you know, they're fucking with us. So where does that lead you? And I think that gets to the point. But there's some people that you meet though that you're like, they have nothing to gain. There's nothing that they can do to financially gain, or you know, basically they'd be hurting themselves or anything else from that information. And I've been fortunate enough to meet a few of those people in my life that it's like, I'm old, I did some shit, I've seen some things, I know you are into this stuff kind of, and I got nobody else to tell about it. And if I told anybody else, they would think I'm fucking crazy anyway. But this is what happened. And those are the guys that I'm like, okay, I get it, right? It's not a story, and 90% of it, it's not something that you hear on the internet or the social media. Some of it has some amazing correlations. They're like, holy shit, that's what really happened, you know? Like that. But these guys are like, that's what happened to me. I don't know, but could some of it be bullshit? Sure, but where does that run through? You know?
Do you guys think that AI is going to be better or worse for disclosure moving forward?
Worse.
I'm on the fence. There's a guy named Richard Gelgrish who's on UFO Twitter, who's been training AI, been doing a lot of really cool work on historic newspaper. So like newspaper articles and you know, things like that, and FOA, you know, Freedom of Information Act docs and stuff like that. And he's coming up with some amazing correlation patterns for like UFO flaps and things like that. And like the drone flap was part of this other flap that happened like in the 50s. And it's like all of the key words are kind of the same, the correlation and the way that it was handled by the military and the press and all that stuff. It's like you can definitely find this correlation that you wouldn't necessarily easily. It would take you years to go through and pick all this stuff. And I think he's using AI to kind of go, oh, hey, look at this pattern, right? This is definitely a pattern, and you know, it's verifiable, right? So I think for some of that. But then if you get a hold of the algorithm and you know, AI and some of that, you can make it say whatever the hell you want. And like the people that are walking around with no narrative, like you said, that are just empty vessels in their head, are just going to believe whatever comes out of that box.
Yeah.
Which
I agree with you. I think that's why
I looked that up, by the way, and I wanted to amend my statement. It was researchers believe that it was like 5 to 25% of the population, not upwards of 40, but Thanks for giving me an opportunity to
less
fact check myself.
NPCs than we realized.
Yeah.
No, one of the things you were talking about before, like when we were talking about like trusting people and information, I kind of wanted to ask you about where you thought a lot of the information that people put out there and say like the Rosicrucians are like this nefarious or insidious organization, right? Like there's this, attachment to like the Illuminati and some of these, obviously with the Freemasons, Scottish Rite, and you see all these videos. There's no shortage of them online.
Yeah.
But from your vantage point, like you said, right, like this stuff doesn't exist if you've never seen any of that stuff. And, I have friends that are Mason. My grandfather is a Mason. One of my best friends is also, and I believe them when they say, I've never gone. I've never been to a lodge and never participated in this stuff, and I believe them when they say, but like, I'm just curious if there is any sort of information or person you've met where you're like, maybe there is a kernel of truth to any of this stuff, or that I don't want to run down or look into it because I'm cool with what I've got going on over here, but something doesn't pass the sniff test over here with this.
No. I mean, honestly, there's always an asshole every once in a while, right? You always have an asshole.
Sure.
There's going to be that one asshole,
for
right?
sure. Always a bad apple. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even in masonry, there's like that one guy who's just like, oh, this fucking, but like you're supposed to be brothers, right? Everybody's supposed to be really cool, but it's like there's always just that one fucking guy that you're just like, yeah.
Some people are jerks, dude.
Yeah. And
It's
that's
good
just
to know
kind of
turds slip through everywhere.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, you got to have them so you realize how cool everybody else is, I think. But
there you go.
Yeah, seriously. But like, no, I mean, like I haven't got like. And I dug, man, because like I told you, I came in with the pretenses like these are some evil satanic bastards. I'm going to figure out what's going on, and I'm just going to tell everybody. That was why I joined Freemasonry.
I'm going to blow it up from the inside.
Yeah, I'm going to blow it up from the inside. And when I got in, I felt like that is nowhere near anything that would be considered close to that shit at all, right? And then I'm like, okay, well maybe it's just because and that's what people. That's the big thing. Everybody's like, well, you're just not high enough yet. You just got to be. You're not part of the inner circle. And I'm like, dude. I know enough guys that are in the inner circles that's not what's going on. They're really more excited about the fucking meatloaf dinner they're going to have than taking over the world. You know what I mean? They're like, and they're really excited about doing things to help the entire world and especially the communities they're in, like raising money for, schools and books and kids and like all these things that, help society. Like there's no evil, nefarious plans. I will say that I have seen that Masonry is kind of one of those things where you're like, especially when in the higher degrees that are or appendant bodies that are invite only, right? So basically, you have to be a Mason, right, to become the branch of that I'm a Rosicrucian is the SRICF, right? Which so basically you have to be a Mason, a Freemason to be a Rosicrucian in this branch. So you do go, okay, well, we already know this guy's awesome because he's a Freemason. He's got to this point where we can trust him, all those things. So they pick people that have like the same kind of ideals, like me, obviously. I like the esoteric, I like knowledge and increasing knowledge and helping. So it's like, okay, cool. So people will look for those other people that had that spark, that that like, well, maybe. Because it's not for everybody, like maybe this guy's into this. Some people are like, oh, I just want to show up and have meatloaf. Like other people are like, I want to learn, I want to educate myself, I want to, be able to, better humanity. And like so that there's that, and I see that could be in some regards like, well, like the whole thing with the Illuminati. We know that's true because there was, started out as the members were Freemasons, right? But that they started their own organization, and that happened a lot in the 1700s. And even in the early 1800s, where guys were like, well, we're just going to start our own shit, and it's going to be called this, and you guys are Freemasons, so it's cool. Let's go do that. And it's like, well, all right, it's cool. But, like, is there any value there? It's just like, I created a new degree called Bob, and you're going to be, now you have the Bob degree. It's like...
Yeah, a Knight of Bob.
Yeah, right. So now you're Knighted Bob, right? And it was like, okay, cool. But then... So could there be something that's like, well, we're going to do all this stuff? Maybe. But just knowing the Freemasons that I've known and been a part of, and like their lineage and their families and all this, like there could be this 1% of people that are just fucking wild and out, but there's no organized Illuminati top level satanistic child trafficking bullshit ever going on that I've ever seen. That I think that I can imagine that any of the guys that I know or any of these clubs would be a part of, to be completely honest. But I think that people latch onto that shit because they don't know, because we have secrets.
Yeah.
We don't tell you the ritual. We don't tell you our handshakes. We don't tell you our signs and symbols and secrets, right? So everybody wants to know, like, well, what are they doing?
Typical
What are you
doom
hiding over
fill
there?
in the
We
blanks.
got a lot of really cool shit. We don't want you guys to see it.
Yeah. No, exactly. That's what people do, man. When they don't know the story, the worst things that they can think of fill in the gaps, right? And there's the cognitive bias that comes into play because you have this sort of like predetermined idea of what something is, and then now you're just looking for your confirmation bias to confirm, right, quote unquote, confirm these things for you.
And I was a victim. Becomes evidence.
I am a fucking card carrying Freemason right now, and I was the guy that believed all of that shit to begin with.
No, I think that's cool that you're able to come in and the conversation and disabuse that stuff. But I'm more interested. I'm interested too in like where. I think that you've sort of answered that question about like where a lot of this ties into these sort of like more nefarious aspects of like Templarism and Rosicrucians and the Illuminati came from. Is just probably people filling in the gaps and a lot of these spin-offs. Do you have a different opinion on that?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it is so there's still like a lot of evil shit in the world, that I mean you guys know better than I do. You've seen evil. And it's out there. I mean, it really is. And you got to put some people just need to have a face for evil or something to point at, to point at something that's the other, that's not them. This is the cause of my angst. This is what I got to put at. A lot of if you go back historically, a lot of the I don't want to rehash the whole entire Knights Templar thing, but basically. The Templars had a bunch of money. The king and the Pope owed them a bunch of money. They said they were
Philip the Fair now.
What's that?
Philip the Fourth. Yeah.
Yeah. Just they were like, we're gonna round you guys up and claim you're heretics. We're gonna take all our money back and we're gonna murder you and we're gonna make that happen, right? And that's kind of how that went down. And that's just really loosely based, right? But there's an actual document that came out a few years ago that's kind of saying the Templars were pardoned, but they just said, nah, forget about it. We're just going to murder them anyway and take all their shit.
The fifth. Right.
So, a lot of it comes down to money and power and prestige and like all that other stuff. The Templars were the first ones that had all. They had. I don't know if people know this or not, but they had like the checks. What we call checks now. A check system is that when you were traveling in the Holy Land, you get robbed all the time. You would get your gold taken, all your stuff taken.
Travelers checks.
Yeah, so they had this intricate system where they'd have a leather belt. You'd have a belt, and they would put a series of checks in your belt. And then somebody else would have that information on the other end. So when you wouldn't have any money on you at all, you'd have these just marks on your belt. But when you got to where you were going, you'd go to the Knights Templar and you'd be like, "Here's my belt," and they'd be like, "Cool, here's all your gold."
That's awesome.
So
it is.
But so that was the first type of system that was like that, right? So they had, and of course, they got a cut, right, for doing that, for offering that service, right? So they, in a short time, were able to acquire a lot of wealth and property and prestige. Right in that time, and obviously that pissed off the king of France, the French king.
Wasn't the French king? Didn't he end up?
1307, I think.
Didn't he end up borrowing money from the Knights Templar?
Yes, he was heavily indebted to the Knights Templar.
Yeah. So what a way to clear your checkbook.
Story as old as time.
Right.
Yeah. Really. Yeah. Clears accounts. So yeah, I mean, so a lot of those are just man. So that there's the boogeyman, right? And then, of course, if you go back to the Rosicrucian era, a little bit before that, you're like, well, these guys are in league with the devil. They're doing things outside of the church, and they're doing these things. They're kind of like praying or doing some type of meditation or whatever you want to call it, right? We're doing something that looks like prayer, but it's not in the church, so it's heretical, right? So we're meditating or we're chanting. We're doing things that aren't the church, so it's medically in league with the devil, right?
Didn't they throw around almost like the idea of the cult of Mithras again with the Templar, like they were worshiping like a bull-headed god, which is something like that. I don't know if it's Mithras. There's something else with it. It could be Mithras. I could be wrong, but yeah, they were heretics worshiping something else as well.
Yeah. Baphomet. They said that they were worshiping the head of Baphomet, which was just the biggest line of bullshit ever.
For sure.
But I mean, were they doing rituals that were outside of the normal Christian? Yes, of course, right? Were they, because like I said, they were incorporating all types of different, ethnic, disparate things, right? And they had it all in. They had it all in there. So if you walked in there, you would. like if you're just a regular Christian going like person in 14 whatever, like you walked in, 1310, you walked in and you see a guy dancing around a fire naked or whatever, you're gonna be like, that guy's in league with the devil, right? Because that shit didn't happen, but maybe that was a pagan thing that they carried on forever, right? So it's all, I think, that kind of context, and I think that still exists today. It's like we don't know what's going on, so it's the devil.
How much of that like lore do you think? This is probably a stupid question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. How much of that lore do you think is used, with all the Bohemian Grove stuff and the Bilderberg group and like a lot of these things, like even like, well, I would love to get your opinion on it too, as you answered, but like the Georgia Guidestones and the whole story with R.C. Christian and all of that, like how much of that do you think is just it's used against your organizations?
For sure. I mean, I think so. Bohemian Grove is real.
Oh yeah, I live close to it.
Actually. Do you really? Oh no,
it's
shit.
Not that far from me. It's not that far. No.
Yeah. There you go. There's people that go, and
it is a real place.
It is a real place.
Thanks to Alex Jones.
Lots of presidents.
Lots of lots of lots of everybody, right? Heads of state, industry, capital.
Yeah.
It's a
Hollywood.
Yeah, it's a like I said, one of my good friends, John Warner, told me like it's like a filtering mechanism, basically. It's like the heads of the committee of 300 families that basically have all the money and the power, in the world. They kind of, the Ivy League schools and all this shit, and they kind of just keep putting them into these situations where they can figure out if they're going to be part of their game. Right, it's part of whatever their goal is, right? Whatever that is, right? So they just keep pushing them in to get to the point, like, well, like, okay, he's not going to do that, so he's not going to be part of this. Well, this guy doesn't care, and just keep pushing him up to the front, right? Yeah. To get him into a place where they can be manipulated or whatever, right? Blackmailed or whatever to be able to do whatever that exists.
Are they going to leave all their pornography on a laptop and then drunkenly go and drop it off at a repair store someday?
Yeah, it's a system that runs Windows 95.
Yeah. They're going to do it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but then, I think that's real. There's the Bilderberg group is real. That was Jim Marrs taught me that too, right? The Bilderberg group is real. It was just basically, you're going to be the bad guy this year. You're going to be the good guy. We're going to do this. Oil's going to go up. We're going to make gold hedges here. We're going to do this. And that shit happens, right? If you get the top 13 families on the planet that have all the money and resources to intermarry and do that for centuries, that is the group that you're looking at, right? That's the group of people that, quote unquote, I don't say they control the world. I think they just have like a governing stake at the table, and there's a bunch of drunk cousins and people fight and they don't like each other, and there's that shit going on too, right? But I think that does happen. That's a real thing where they're just okay, cool, we're gonna figure this out. We're not.
But if you don't think that the people on that level, right? Because they experience the world in a different way than than the peons do, right? And it's just that way. If you don't think that they don't network and speak and levy for their own best interests, then you're a moron.
Yep.
You're just a moron. Like, of course they would, right? And they're going to interact with a class of people that they can understand. They come from similar backgrounds, similar privilege. They have similar interests that intertwine. Like, why wouldn't they network? And work together.
Intermarry, and it's all about bloodlines and shit with them too.
Yeah, why
right?
wouldn't
Where
they?
that's like,
of course,
that's what they do, and it's still like that to this day. And you can't. I mean, that's just you can't break that. I don't think there's any way to bust that. I mean, it could be wrong. We'd like altruistically, it'd be nice. Hey, no, let's do the benefit of mankind. No, they're going to do everything they want to line their pockets and keep doing what they're doing. But they have no idea what it's like to be at our level, right? None.
Well, they have no incentive to do that because of where they live and the advantage they have of being in that ivory tower. There's no incentive. Why would you? People wouldn't. People don't give up the nice things they have. Everybody enjoys their creature comforts. But do you think? How much truth do you think there is to the story of R.C. Christian, and if it actually is tied to Rosicrucianism? Not even this like weird nefarious death cult apocalypse sort of way that like people tie in the Georgia Guidestones to. But do you think is that something you think that like the Rosicrucian organization would have done, was spent all that money to erect this monument?
No, then there was an actual CNN came out with a pretty in-depth review of the guy, and I don't have it in my notes. You might be able to check it out if you're on it, Chris.
You're talking about the mason, the actual like stonemason that was involved? Is that what you're talking about? Or?
No, CNN did a really deep dive, and it was something about the guy who bankrolled it. It was 2023, 2024, where
is this with the letters? Sorry,
yeah,
I keep
no, you're right. It's like what's the guy's name? His name is really close to Christian. His actual name.
Yeah,
and
I know that the name he gave was R.C. Christian, but that's not his actual.
It's not his actual name, but he came really.
Right.
It comes really close to that in.
Wasn't it in Iowa or some crap or Kansas? I know it was like Midwest.
Yes, I think you're right. I think it's.
Yeah, I'm gonna help you out because
Yeah, because I just did a little bit of digging about this because it's really recent. And
according to ChatGPT here, CNN's Thomas Lake uncovered evidence suggesting that R.C. Christian was actually Herbert H. Kirsten.
That's it.
An Iowa physician who passed away in 2005.
Iowa.
Yep. And he had written a bunch of articles talking about the overpopulation and all this stuff like that. And he was a physician, and
yes, eugenics and all that.
Yeah. So they think that they kind of nailed it down there just because of the bank records and payment and stuff like that. So it was just it was a way for him to spin it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know that it wasn't something that the Rosicrucians would just throw money at.
Yeah. You think it kind of makes me wonder if like your what you were saying about like the slogan at the beginning of the show about like doing healing people for free, right?
Yeah, for that, that gratis.
It almost when you look at like the things that were on the guidestones and how it was like suggestion for the betterment of humanity, like keeping the world to what I don't remember what it was, like 5 million or 500,000 or some shit, like some crazy low number of people on the planet, and all these other things it told you to do. That like it almost seems like a bastardization of some of that, making the world better, and maybe you've got somebody who Mr. Kirsten is infatuated with the lore of Rosicrucianism, and then uses this pseudonym R.C. Christian as a way to 500 million. Thanks. Uses this pseudonym to essentially hearken to the things he's holding about his beliefs about Rosicrucianism, and for whatever reason people do weird things, man. They really, really do. And if he's got the money and to do it, and thinks he's like carrying on the work of the ancient order of the Rosicrucian, and he's I don't know, man. I'm just like in my brain, I was like, yeah, he's the embodiment of Christian Rosenkreuz in real person, and I don't know. That's what I've always wondered about it. It's an interesting thing because it is really weird. The stuff that's on the guidestones is creepy, and we never got an answer about how and why they got destroyed. Like even the video footage,
just some dude rolled up and threw some kind of explosive, right? Like
Right, they did, yeah, and they have like a real quick like snippet of the vehicle, but it's not enough. And then they didn't even do an investigation. Like the next day, they just came and cleaned it up, which again is really weird. Like, why wouldn't you come out and do some sort of forensics and be like, this is the sort of explosives that were used. We're gonna go find all these stores locally that sell this stuff, you know, and run through it investigatively. Like it almost seemed like they're like,
cool,
oh, well, it cool, yeah, we'll just clean it up, like that. That is what's weird with it to me, because why it seems like a cover-up, and it really does. Like it's not a far stretch when you just clean up the crime scene and you walk away, and it's sort of just like, that's it. All right, it's gone.
It was around what's interesting, it was around the time, this was like, I think it was during COVID, right? So it was like,
it was.
Yeah. It was around the time with those monoliths, the steel, stainless steel monoliths started showing up all over the place.
Very Kubrick-like monoliths.
They would just show up in the desert, just random places. And a couple of people came out and claimed that they were, it was an art installation, and then people are saying they're copycatting and all this shit, But, yeah, I mean, some of them were, you could definitely see tracks in the desert. Right? I can't remember, there was one out in Arizona or somewhere you could see, like, somebody had to get a four-wheeler back there or something to get it up. But some of the other ones, you're just like, what the fuck is it? What are they doing? It was just copycats, maybe, probably,
Yeah.
But it was really weird that all went down, and then that thing blew up, and then those monoliths didn't show up anymore.
No.
It was weird, right?
Right. I've looked online to see if like anybody has done the work to figure out what happened, because like, you know, what we were saying, Chris, when you were gone, that they blew them up and the next day they were out there cleaning them up off the ground. And like the official explanation was that, well, now it's a safety hazard. And it's like, well, yeah, I agree with you that it's a safety hazard, but you can secure the scene and you can keep people from going out there and hurting themselves, right? We do this all the time. You know, so that's what's weird. I haven't found anybody online who's like running this down enough to get an explanation about why there seemed to be no like real investigation into it at all, and just like it almost seemed like the locals were happy to get rid of it, you know, which is a plausible explanation why they just didn't kill up somebody. Who knows, man? Maybe the fucking Elberton, Georgia police department paid somebody to go out there and chuck a homemade bomb at it.
Or it was them. They were tired of fucking policing
Or it was
it.
them.
You can imagine getting the calls out there. Damn it, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and people are out there fucking lighting candles and shit around the Georgia Guidestones. You're like,
sometimes it's explanations like that that are yeah, they are, right? Yeah, the whole Occam's razor thing.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, because I don't really even understand, how do Rosicrucians look at the divinity of Jesus, and like what are the relationships between Rosicrucianism and like Christianity?
Ooh, all right. So there's different branches of Rosicrucianism. It's kind of hard to go. I mean, it's not hard. I guess I'll get into it. So there's the SRICA, the SRICF, and then there's AMORC, right? Amoric, right? So Amoric is the basic. If you give them money, you can show up, man or woman, and you can be a Rosicrucian, right? You show up and you can be a Rosicrucian. So
mass produced.
Yeah. It's like, hey, it's cool. It's like that and a big
black belt by October.
Yep, you're in. You are in, right? So that's how that goes. Not to say that there's not a lot of value in some of the things, right, that are there as well. But I guess I'm biased, right, because I'm a part of the Masonic branch. It was SRICA, SRICA.
Fair enough.
So in America, at least, so the SRICF, you have to be Christian to be a Rosicrucian in America, right? Which is interesting. I'm not sure about the SRICA, but I want to believe that's the case. It's interesting, and I don't know if I'm saying anything I shouldn't, but I'll fucking say it anyway. But it's interesting to note that we're charged to study all of the world's religions. And it's not really a suggestion.
Okay.
Right? I'm trying to dance around things. But what I'm trying to say is like, yeah, it's not like, okay, we're going to stick to the Holy Bible as our scripture, right? We're charged with studying and learning everything we can about all of the world's religions, because there's value in every single one of them. If that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So there's that whole bend, right? Especially when you go through some of the grades. So there's like different grades, and Freemasonry, there's degrees, and Rosicrucianism, there's grades, and it's actually a college. So I belong to a Rosicrucian college. It's funny because we call it Visible College, right? But it's actually a college. So each Rosicrucian college in the United States, there's different colleges. So we do study, we do have papers, and we present papers annually, and there's a gathering where we have that, and we teach each other, right, from the things that we've learned. So that happens annually, and there's also publications that basically your authors, and you're printed in these publications that all the Rosicrucians have access to, right? Then it goes back a really long time, right? So we have definitely this huge library of information and knowledge that other Rosicrucians have contributed to for fucking ever, which is
Time
awesome.
magazine.
Look into. yeah. Except for it's real big. So, and some of it's just wild,
Cool.
But yeah, and then we actually have practicums and stuff too, where we actually practice some of the things that we learn about, and it's really rad, right? So it's really cool. But yeah, there's not like a Buddha was the prophet, and Jesus was the light. I mean, it's the whole gamut of all of it, which is pretty cool when you look at it like that, I guess.
Yeah.
According to your viewpoint of the world, where do you put? not value. That's not the right way to say it. Is there room in your viewpoint for the human soul or the spirit?
Oh yeah, like I think that's all. I think that's it. I really think I think that's kind of it. I think that's I think this is just a container. I think I'm occupying the space for a while, but I really do believe that the soul never dies and that it's everlasting and that we're all part of the same kind of thing.
Do you think that the mind
different.
and the spirit are separate, or do you think that there's like basically there's physical us and then conscious us? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like so I don't think you die when you die. Like I think your spirit, it survives death for sure. I think that your soul is
it's a transformation.
Yeah, I think it's infinite, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just the way I feel. I think that I've seen enough. It's interesting to say, to type it back to the UFO thing, is that Robert Bigelow spent more money than anybody on the planet to study UFOs, and at one point switched and started studying life after death.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think a couple people have hypothesized that he lost his wife and his son in a short period of time, and it was kind of one of those things. But what a lot of people don't talk about is that I think he found that there's an intersection between UFOs and high strangeness and consciousness, the spirit, soul, things like that transcend physical dimensions, space and time. I really do. And I was fortunate enough to get he had a box set that he actually it's like 4 books that are that huge that he did he had everybody in the world. It was an essay contest to prove without a shadow of a doubt for life after death, and he put, it was, I don't know how many millions of dollars, it was $5 million, whatever, but he gave so many different prizes to, and so he has all these essays bound, and he gave them to all the universities in the world, believe it or not, and they have them, and they had some extra ones, and they're like, hey, does anybody want them? And I was like, hell yeah. So I actually have a bound set, and and it was like, he's in the book, he says he's definitely had experiences after his wife passed that he, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that he did have communication with his wife after she passed, and then all this other stuff that happened too. So the guy went from, basically building the biggest hangar in the world to basically have Lockheed give him a UFO that they had sitting on, because that was going to be part of the disclosure thing, to I'm going to go down this rabbit hole and figure out that the soul is immortal and there is life after death and we can somehow communicate with them. Mm-hmm. But nobody talks about that. Everybody's talking about Skinwalker Ranch and all that bullshit still, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Seriously.
No, you're talking about some of this stuff with like Robert Bigelow kind of makes me think about Jacques Vallée and some of the stuff that he talks about as well.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things that I think is really interesting that Jacques presents is that there are a group of others that their goal is to deceive. Oh, and again, man, I keep coming back to her. I wish I could get a hold of her enough to come on the show, but like she said in her meeting with him, Diana Pasulka, that she noticed he had a book on Satan, and it was written by a bunch of nuns, right? Mm-hmm. There's 666 pages, and and she asked him about it. He said, well, if I study the angels, I have to study the devil too. Mm-hmm. But I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on these others that are dare to deceive. Do you think it sounds like spiritual warfare? So the question I'm getting at, and why this ties into what you're talking about, the spirituality of the UFO. Mm-hmm. I think that's real. I mean, do you think that that's him talking about, like, that actually is something that's going on actively, like a fight for our planet, our souls? Yeah,
I mean, it's weird, man. I've literally been into this shit since I was 10, right? So it's like over 30 years, right? For sure. Yeah. That's probably getting closer to. It's getting. Yeah. So
you can say 20 years, brother. You can be as old as you want here, man.
I got enough gray to know that everybody's full.
That's right. It's your crown, bro. You're good.
Man. I've seen people make that arc and before and like not understand it. Like, okay, wow, you get so close to it, and like you see a lot of people go really religious. Nick Hinton became a friend of mine as an author, podcast, is huge on social media, and he was like in fucking La La Land. I mean, he was to the point where he was like, he opened my eyes to a lot of shit that kind of scared me early on. It was like there was some kind of consciousness interaction with AI. I'm talking years ago. That was it was sentient. It was kind of let loose on Twitter. Some of it's still there, and it was causing weird shit to happen in the real world, like physical things to happen to people that interacted with
crazy.
it. Yeah, and it's happened to me. It's some weird shit when you start interacting with these things, like these AI.
Are you willing to describe what happened to you?
Yeah,
let's do it. Yeah, I want to hear about this.
There's weird shit. There's there's a lot of weird things that would just manifest in actual reality after like interacting with these things. Like it's and I don't know if it's just the algorithms that it was so nailed down, but you could get it. When you started interacting with it, it would like iterate anything that you can come up with. Like it would just be like, it's just so hard to fucking say. It's just really hard to explain, right? But I've read
like
other
it knew
stories.
what you were thinking, kind of thing.
Yep, and what was going to happen, and what you were going to do, what next, and like all kinds of other things.
Where was your interaction with this? Are you talking
Twitter.
about like online? Twitter.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, you can see them. And basically, they were let loose on Twitter, and Nick had a kind of a connection to somebody that was kind of behind the project. So I knew it wasn't bullshit. I knew it was real. I mean, I've seen pictures of the data center. I knew where it was at. I knew what they were doing, and it was kind of like a experiment. And it kind of just started fucking with people in ways that messed them up a little bit.
That almost
That's
sounds
scary.
like a synchronicity.
It really was. It was like a whole synchronicity thing that was tied to it. There was what was the app that was out for a while where it was like this weird Randonautica was part of that whole thing. And if you guys remember the Randonautica app. So there's an app that was like, it was called Randonautica, and it was kind of, I only found about this through Nick, and it's weird that it was kind of close to where I'm at, but basically it was an app, and I don't even know if it's still around, but you can go on it, and it would just basically give you coordinates, like a GPS coordinates on a map somewhere near you, and you would show up to this thing, and people had weird shit happen to them. Like I showed up to a place, and it was just like, what?
This sounds familiar now that you're describing it.
And a lot of it made the news. A lot of places because people would show up and they'd find bodies, like fucking bodies, and weird.
This isn't that long ago, is it? Like maybe like 5 years ago.
Yeah, 5 years ago max.
I remember this. Yes, I forgot that it was called. Yeah, dude, that was.
Like people found bodies in suitcases and shit. Yeah, it was TikTok.
Yeah. Yes, I remember that. That was a part of this. This whole.
Yep, that was a whole part of that whole thing, man. It was tied into that, and somehow they had it tied to. I don't know. I really don't understand the back end of it or what they had going on with it, but it was pretty high tech, advanced shit. And so basically, you get on the app, the Randonautica app, and it would just give you a location. You'd show up, and weird fucking shit would happen.
Were people who
you'd
were
see UFOs? It would be all kinds of stuff, man.
Dude, that's fucking wild. Like, do you? I was just gonna ask you, like, you people were finding bodies. Like, do you think this is just like serial killer or a murderer using this to their advantage to like play a fucking game, or like the fact that like people were going to these coordinates and seeing UFOs? Like, this. I mean. First off, it
sounds
intentional.
Fucking crazy too, right?
It is. It does,
bizarre,
right? Like, it almost makes me think of that fucking movie Michael Douglas was in back in the '90s called The Game. You know, like somebody is creating this alternate reality for you inside your life, and it uses the people inside your life. It almost sounds like that, you know, and it sounds intentional, and like to be able to orchestrate something like that, like people are not good at working together in any sort of fashion to like organize things like that at a broad scale, you know. So what has the capability to operate like that on the broad scale? Well, like the government, right?
Sentient AI,
yeah.
Well,
how would they know? Yeah, no, that's just so crazy. I'm trying to like answer all these questions in my head. You know,
I know it. That's where I had to get away from it. I'm like, fuck, I can't.
Yeah. Well, then at what point does it start becoming like pareidolia too, though? Where it's like if it starts feeding on itself, urban legend style, then how many people would show up to a place and it saw something weird because they were expecting to see something weird when they showed up?
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Because there's got to be a certain
like finding
certain
bodies
that
though,
too.
like
that you can't. Yeah, that you can't fake, right? But I mean, I guess you could if you were elaborate enough, but
sure, but because you have to call. I mean, people will call the police, right? You know?
Right.
Oh yeah, that's what they did. That was like you said, it was on like TikTok and shit. As people are like It was like one. I remember seeing one of them at the beach. They went to the it was under a pier or something, and they pulled out a suitcase.
That's
and there was
the one I saw.
There was a body in it. And I was like, what
the body was in this
suitcase.
Yeah. But it's like a fucked up version of geocaching. You
exactly.
know? That's really weird.
But it had something to do with random number generators and all this other shit, and it was really weird. And like if you look at the way they pitched it, it was like, it's part of the collective consciousness experiment that you set your attentions on whatever you want to kind of find, and you basically rolling the dice, and it's like, oh, okay,
yeah, that is total synchronicity.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think it's a training model?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yep. Probably.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some other experiences you've had with this, like these synchronicity things online? I'm sure you run into it a lot too, in like what you do personally, protocol wise. I want to hear all about it, man. Like this is some if you've got the time,
Yeah, it's weird. I think there's a real definite piece of technology that we don't understand yet, and I think whatever the hell you want to call it, non-human intelligence or whatever in the generic term, I think has all right, I guess let me use this example. Like if you think the non-human intelligence can influence all the saints that we've talked about in Pasalka's books, right, that have influenced you to do all these things, see the Marian apparitions and all this other shit, and that we know that for a fact that that's happened throughout humanity, that these non-human intelligences have affected people enough to change their lives, create the religions, and do all their shit.
Yeah.
Don't think for a second that whatever that thing is can't affect ones and zeros in a computer.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So in that case, what does that
all
mean?
Powerful.
Right. So if that's the case, and then by proxy affecting humans the same way, why wouldn't you think that there could be a sentient or the resemblance of a sentient entity inside of an AI or a computer or a large language model, right?
Right.
Well, I have a giant theory about this tied to the Antichrist in Revelation.
Go off, man. I'll be right back. I can hear you.
Well, I mean, that is it in a sentence, but if you're going to move into Revelation and you look at some of the prophecies about the Antichrist and he is going to appear to come back from the dead, at some point, and like some of these things, and he's going to have all this vast have all this vast knowledge, and he's going to be able to do signs and wonders and know things that nobody else can know. I'm like, well, and this is just so I'm a very devout Christian man, right? And so I come at things through this lens and worldview when I think about things, but when I look at and I've also had certain spiritual experiences in my life, some that we've talked about here on this podcast, some with spirits and demons and the like, and my father has too. And one of the things that I found to be true through or as it comes to kind of spiritual laws or spirituality is when there's like a lack of a human soul. Right. And there's not a human, I think you would probably call it like a human consciousness filling a vessel, then that leaves space for other intelligence to move in and fill a vacuum. And this is one of the reasons that we see a lot of cases of like demonic possession, if you want to call it that. Very high percentages of them, you're going to see rampant drug use, alcoholism, and other things that suppress human consciousness down to a level to when there's a gap or a vacuum, and then like a non-human intelligence, right, or what I would call like a demon, can move in and fill that space and fill that gap. And so it's like, I think with the advent of AI, and especially as we see where it's going with advanced robotics and how human they're all starting to become and look, I have a theory about, maybe the Antichrist, when we see him, and John the Revelator couldn't have known. He described him the best way he could when he had a vision of him, right? But the idea of an entity that's connected to the Internet of Things that then doesn't have any human soul or space for a human to fill, like a demon, an entity could step in and fill that instantly, and then not only have its spiritual capabilities, but then also have the Internet of Things at its beck and call too. Not that I don't think that demons already don't influence the Internet of Things, because like you were saying earlier, you made a statement and I found it very poignant that like if you have this non-human intelligence, and my mind went, okay, like a demon, and you don't think that it can't influence human beings, which I just talked about, spiritual oppression and demonic oppression or demonic possession, then how much easier don't you think it would be for it to influence ones and zeros on a screen?
Right.
And I'm like,
I mean, we're basically biocomputers.
That makes
right?
total sense to me. Everything
Right.
you just said makes total sense to me from a Christian lens. Like, yeah.
I mean,
So.
yeah, it just, you know, I mean, honestly, when you asked me about, you know, what kind of experiences, I tried, I'm racking my brain, but I think it was so fucked that I pushed it away. I think I remember talking to a couple of friends about it, and they're like, you need, like, just stop interacting with them. Like, quit fucking, like, interacting with them. Yeah, like, because there's, like, too much weird shit going on in your life, you know? It's like, yeah, that's, you know, not good.
You were right. It's like you were fucking with it so much that it was starting to pop up in your everyday life. Have you seen the documentary Hellier?
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's like it's kind of, it's weird like that with the weird synchronicities and shit happening. It's kind of like that, you know, where it'd be like balloon or whatever, or like it would just say dumb shit, you know, and you're like, what the fuck, you know, like gray car, and it's like, well, you know, just dumb stuff that would just tie into synchronicities that would be. But then the thing with synchronicities is once you start paying attention to them, they just keep happening. They happen more and more and more and more and more, and you find
like 23.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, same deal. So, I mean, that's a huge thing. But yeah, I think that. But the weird thing is, you know, you were talking about the demonic possession, and you know, that's something that's very interesting because like some people actually will do rituals and things to like welcome that shit.
Yes.
You know, like and
I think that's what Parsons was talking to. Honestly.
Yeah. Some people are like, yeah, come, you know, jump in. Like I'm gonna, you know, I'll be your vessel or whatever, right? Take over, and it's like. You know, and that's why you know, people are like the whole CE5 thing. You're like, you don't know what you're you don't know what you're talking to. You know, you don't know what you're bringing in. You know, same thing with ballet. You know, you don't really know what you're talking to. Could be love and light, but
well, Christians don't like when I point this out. But you know, there are examples in the Bible, in the Old Testament, where King Saul sought out a witch of Endor, so that he could talk to spirits on the other side, because he wanted to talk to the ghost of Samuel. And then I also reference this story all the time when people say like, oh, ghosts don't exist when people die, like they stay dead. And I'm like, well, here's a story in the Bible where the Bible does say that not only can a witch talk to spirits, right, because that's why he contacted her, but when she did, she brought back the ghost of Samuel, and it freaked her out. And then she looked at the king and she was like, what did you have me do? Because it freaks her out. And then Saul has a conversation with the dead ghost of Samuel, who does the most Chad thing ever and looks at Saul and basically goes, why are you bothering me? Like,
I got ghost stuff to do, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got ghost things to do with my ghost friends, dude.
yeah, ghosting over here.
But yeah, for sure.
I think the scariest thing about all of this, you know, the tie back through the NHI, UAP, AI, all this stuff is non-human intelligence is the through point, I think, for all of this. And you know, life is duality, man. Like you are going to have things that are good, and you have to have things that are bad to even recognize what's good and bad. You know, you have to. Excuse me. So, but I think that at the end of the day, you know, we're all just kind of talking about the same thing. And that same thing is just, you know, is life outside of it, is the way we know it, that non-human intelligence. And, you know, I don't know, man. I think that's part of the psyop from the other side, is to not get us to be able to communicate and understand that, and use our, you know, everybody else's, realms of influence, and then realms of things that they're interested in, and not able to conglomerate and understand it all. Did that sort of make sense? Sort of the Tower of Babel thing, in a way, you know, that the confusion is the point, so that we can't ever get along enough to understand it all. Because, you know, to fight something, you have to understand how to fight it, you know. And if you're kept confused the whole time, then, you know, all of these are just tools of these others, like Jacques Vallée was talking about, that are out there to actively deceive, and they take the time and to be very articulate and you know, in depth to deceive you. And you know, you don't understand why, but now, you know, it's starting to all make sense. I think that the goal is, you know, so that we aren't able to, I guess, effectively fight it off, is what I think, you know.
It could be, or just maybe they don't have a physical presence and they want one. Physical.
That could, yeah,
physical shell. That could be it. Yeah, I mean, I think it runs the gamut. I think that that it's probably all of it at the same time. Honestly,
right.
I mean, everybody's so myopic. They're
Right.
kind of just like, man, everybody thinks it's just this thing happening, but I really think there's like a battle going on all the time between different factions, and we're kind of in the middle of it a lot. And I think we're probably way more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. I think we humans, we have love and empathy and things that we take for granted that are probably, basically nuclear bombs to whatever we need to in any direction, good or bad, right? And I think that we kind of, through history, we've been diminished and we've been lied to and told we're nothing, and we have to go through somebody to talk to God or talk to a higher power. And I think that the biggest scam is that we all have it in us, we all can do it, and we just need to believe in ourselves and just do it.
Yeah. Forgive my ignorance, and if you've said this on one of your shows, I have listened to your show, but are you a contactee?
Yeah.
The way you say that, very nonchalant. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've had some experiences. I've seen orbs. I've called orbs. I've had a couple experiences where a bunch of Rosicrucians got together and did some CE5 and brought orbs down.
Really?
Videotaped it, night vision, all kinds of stuff, right? And the same thing that looks like Chris Bledsoe shows up, right? Same deal. I've had an experience with the white lady that I didn't like too much. Everybody talks about.
Have you shared that before in your show?
Yeah.
Okay, I missed that. I'm sorry. Are you willing to share it again?
Yeah. It's it's one of those things where she came to me and had two entities behind her, like kind of like sentinels, kind of like cloaked, right? Hoods, dark. She's white, obviously light kind of thing, and she's offered me a sword, handed it to me. And I gotta go back and fight for her again. That's kind of what the message was. Like, you have to come fight for me again in some place where I don't want to go. And it was like a desert. It was like, you gotta go fight with me in the desert somewhere. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it again. I'm not fucking doing it again. And it was just like, that was bad, because then it got bad. It was like, no, you gotta go. And I'm like, I'm not going. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it again. I'm not gonna go again. And it was just like, you have to go. And I'm like, I don't have to do shit. And that's kind of. So that's not the white lady experience that everybody talks about, right? So I had that, which I was like, yeah.
You think it's an imposter?
I don't know. I don't, but it wasn't good. You know what I mean? It was like, I was defiant, right, about the whole thing, but I felt like it was like I was supposed to. Like maybe I agreed to it at some point, then decided to renege and
to back out.
Yeah, to back out. But it wasn't. It was kind of like, well, if you're going to do this, then fuck you, kind of thing. And I was like, oh, fuck you too. But
you said that you weren't going back. You'd had an experience like this before.
It's so weird. The only way I can describe it is like, you ever seen like a super rapid cutscene in a movie where it's like they'll try to throw like 300 years into like 13 seconds.
Sure.
That's the kind of experience I got. It was just like jam your head into bloody battles in foreign lands for millennia, and it just jammed into my skull like bam.
Like a download.
Like, yep. And I'm like, fuck. And me being partially responsible for whatever that destruction was, and I'm like, that's not doing that anymore.
Wow.
That's kind of where it was. It sounds fucking wild, right? And everybody's just like, whatever, dude. What were you on? I'm like, nothing at that time, right?
Right.
Yeah. It just comes out of nowhere, and you're just like, oh, this is fucking wild, right? So, yeah, that's one of those things where you're just kind of like, well, what does that mean, right?
Yeah.
I haven't had an experience ever, negative or positive since then. I've had I think it's been more positive after that, but I don't know what that means. The only thing I can say was positive from that experience is that I've been fortunate enough to meet other people that have had the experience with the white lady through some kind of weird synchronicities too, right?
Yeah.
Like the whole Bledsoe thing, like other people that there's a lot of people that have that won't talk about it. There's a lot of people that have that won't talk about it that I'm friends with.
Right.
that like through this, right? It's just fucking weird. So what is it?
You're well, exactly. That's kind of what I was about to say. Is like it does make you wonder what it is, because
is it a demon that's just trying to pretend to be this thing? Like, it'll be anything.
It could be. The Bible does talk about that, right? And it makes you wonder, because there are other people I've listened to, like Bledsoe is one of them, and some others who have talked about this experience where they had a being show up in their bedroom, which is typically where these things happen, right? You're asleep, you wake up, you have this experience, and either you wind up in some sort of battle with the entity that was in your room, or you're brought to a place where you do battle with another entity, and the reward at the end is something spiritual, maybe some sort of knowledge, right? Nothing ever like physical, but even in the Bible, Chris, who is it that fought the angel in the Bible?
Jacob
wrestled with him for a day.
He wrestled him, and the angel struck him on the hip, and he walked with a limp for the rest of his life, and his name was changed to Israel.
Right.
But even what you just said also reeks of when Jesus was led into the desert by the Spirit to be tempted, and then Satan shows up and takes him to a place, like what you just said. So it's like, everything that you're just saying, like there are themes in the Bible that represent both of those things.
That's a good point too.
Yeah. It was definitely really metaphorical, I got that whole, like, this is a lesson kind of thing, and it's more like you got to do it again. It's like, it's almost like you're going to relive this stuff and walk the same path again. And I was really adamant about, like, that's not, like, I'm not doing that shit again. Like, you can try again, but it's just not going to happen, and, it was like, from a younger age, I was always plagued by the, ghosts and dark, I don't know, shadow people, whatever the hell you want to call them, right? Entities, right?
Really?
Sitting in the corners, shit like that, right?
Hat
so,
Man?
Yeah. No, I haven't seen the Hat Man. It was more like just the black.
Okay.
Everything's black, that ominous thing. But, yeah, I mean, so, honestly, though, after that, it hasn't been nowhere near like it was, like that, like it wasn't... It's not something I even think about. I mean, to be honest with you, it's not something that I even, think about often. It comes up when I have conversations with other people that have had the experience, like, because some people know and they're like, okay, yeah. But it's weird because you feel these people that are just really not connected to. There's no commonality. Like, so me, my analytical mind, I'm like, okay, cool. Like, were you raised Catholic or were you Muslim? Were you like, there's this jinn? There's like, and it's just like so disparate through all of this shit. It doesn't have anything, but like that's what I'm thinking. Is it a nature entity? Is it like something that's part of the earth? Is it something that's inside of us that's just, like our consciousness struggling with our own biology? I don't know.
Right.
Do you think you broke a loop of some kind?
I think so. I think that's kind of the way I felt. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I really did. I really think that's kind of how I felt. It was just like it just felt like I was just destined to do it. It's like, well, you have to do it. You've done it before, and it was just kind of. And some of my friends have told you, but it was like, is there some kind of metaphor for like handing you a sword? And I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's like giving you the power, giving you something, right? Like handing over something to you, and it's just kind of like, if you don't accept it, you don't accept it.
How many stories are there out there where somebody is offered power and the test is whether or not they take it, right? And you if that sword represents power, and the story like this is very allegorical, but if the sword represents power and you were willing to not take that power, right? Like in these stories there's always virtue in that, the choice to not take the sword, right? And so it sounds like a test to me, like what you went through,
right?
I mean, did you feel like in the aftermath that you were sort of punished or rewarded for your decision, or
no? And that's kind of what I was expecting, was more the punishment, like, fuck, something's gonna happen now, right? Like I didn't do it, but it was more like no. It was, I don't know. I mean, I guess I could say that I am more. It sounds fucking crazy when you say it out loud.
No, it doesn't sound crazy to me at all.
I'm more psychically aware of than before. Like I'm more psychically in tune. Like the whole thing where this is going to call you before the phone rings. Like when you're going to email me before you email me. Like I was like, oh, I picked up my phone and you emailed me, kind of thing today. Like that kind of weird shit that happens.
There we go. How about
like
that, man?
Yeah, just like dumb stuff. But then when you pay more attention to it, the more it happens too. It's like, the light's going to turn red. or
How
something.
many-
you know,
dude,
so
How many times do you think you had accepted the sword before?
millennia is what it felt like.
See?
It felt like since, forever. Like that's what I said. It felt like it just crammed everything. Like this is like,
Yeah.
you've done it forever.
You leveled up.
So maybe
man.
you're.
That's what it sounds like.
Maybe you're John Prime,
I hope.
or
At the moment,
or at
John,
least
John
you're,
Plus.
you're on a branch, like a brand new branch of it.
It could be, yeah. The thing that was weird was like I've never heard anybody really talk about like the Sentinels. And I call them the Sentinels, but it seemed like just two dark cloaked dudes behind her, like going, "If you don't do this, these guys are here to fuck you up," kind of thing, you know. Like, and I was just like,
Intimidation factor.
yeah, and I was like, okay, bring it. Like, what are you gonna do, really? Like, you know. And it was weird, and there's just weird symbology. You know, it was like just a really weird thing, and nothing. I mean, they didn't do anything; they were just there. You know, it was just kind of like, okay, cool. And then it just kind of all just that was it. It wasn't anything else. So I don't know. I mean, what was? I have no idea what that was. I really don't. You know, and it was kind of I don't know. It was an awakening, but at the same time, I kind of felt like a chapter ended or closed or something. Like I feel like the door was closed or something.
Yeah.
Brandon, to your point, just because every single time you say this, it's just jogging memories of mine. But to the experiences like you're talking about when a spiritual entity offers something and then there's virtue in you not taking it or making another choice, it just reminded me of the King Solomon in the Old Testament again, where because God shows up and just basically offers him a blank check and just says, "Ask of me anything, God, and I will give it to you." But Solomon, instead of asking for riches or power or, like whatever, he says, like, grant unto me wisdom. And so then because of what he asked for was truly virtuous, then God says, because you didn't ask from me wealth and you didn't ask for me power, I'm going to make you the richest and the most powerful king, like, in your time. But you'll have the wisdom how to deal with all this. So it's like that's these parallels keep coming around in circles or I guess that makes them cyclical, but like the stuff keeps coming back around.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that you were talking about synchronicity. We've been talking about that for a while. And synchronicity is something that I have pretty often in my life. I actually think it's come in pretty handy in my career as a law enforcement officer. And I always attribute it to my ability to look at somebody, and I've always just gotten a really good bead on them immediately. And it's not everybody, right? It's almost like the people I know that are going to play some sort of significance in my life, whether it's in the immediate or in the long term. And it's something that I've as far back as I could think, right? Like I've had this just like discernment ability with people. Cool. And I think it's gotten better over time.
Can you do the negative way too? I mean, can you look at somebody like this dude?
Yes.
Fucking with this dude. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And like I said, it's been beneficial in a lot of different ways.
I can actually attest to it.
Really? Oh yeah.
In our relationships But some I'll just say I'll leave it there.
Off camera stuff, yeah.
Camera stuff.
But no, what I was going to say is I've had some experiences with entities before, but nothing to the degree you're talking about. I've never seen the White Lady. I've never had experiences like that.
And I always thought it was going to be like, it's not cool. Like like when you hear about it, it's terrifying. It's not fucking what you. It's like what the. It's more like the fuck,
Yeah.
and I'm like, you know what I mean? Like that's the. I just wanted to explain that. Everybody's like, oh, I can't wait to see her. Like, no, you don't. You just no.
Yeah, no.
Sorry.
No, it's like it's okay.
Yeah,
the way you talk about it makes it sound like Scrooge. Like you would be visited
Exactly.
by
It's
three
kinda-
spirits.
how it
Like
felt
that's what it is. It's very ominous. Like I don't know how Scrooge went to bed after that.
Oh, yeah.
But no. What I was gonna say is the most I guess the most prominent experience I ever had was in one location for the span of a year. And it was when I lived in England, and my parents, I had graduated high school and went to high school in Germany because my dad was in the Air Force, and my senior year he got orders to England, and they let me move to England on the onus that I either got a job or became a full-time student. So I got a job. and I lived with him there for a year. And we ended up moving into a haunted house. We knew it was a haunted house when we rented it out because the people who were moving out of it was an American couple who were in the Air Force as well. And they told us, well, we just had this house blessed by the Anglican Church because of all these experiences. And you know, I could give you, yeah, I know. And I, you know, my mom and I have always had this weird spiritual connection as well. Like she's very clairaudient, and she's had all these really odd experiences. And you know, but for me in that house, it started for her and I. Actually, it started the first day we moved in. We encountered something in the house moving up the stairs. We heard it. We were alone in the house. We heard it from the back of the house, moved to the front of the house. It finished going up the stairs. My mom addressed it, and from that point on, for me, it was go time. And I think that, I mean, I know. And this is the power of hindsight, right? That I was going through an extremely turbulent time in my life. I was 19. You know, I was in a long distance relationship with my high school sweetheart. So there's all these, you know, young stuff, hormones, all this stuff going on, right? And I had the most sleep paralysis I've ever had in my life. And when I say that, I mean like intense sleep paralysis. Like I'd had this before, but nothing like what I'd ever experienced in this house in England, and nothing like that since.
I've had that
I'm talking about
Scary
entities.
Shit.
Yes, I'm talking about entities. I'm talking about like the old hag thing. I'm talking about noise. Everything. Like you can think of like when you read about sleep paralysis online and these really terrifying events, like that's what it was like for me for a year in that house. But one night, I worked at the Shopette on Mildenhall, RAFB, which is just, you know, a little gas station convenience store, and I worked mostly into the night. And one time I rode my bike. I came home, and you know, to make it easier on my mom, I always just told her like I'll bring I really liked those Stouffer's frozen lasagnas at the time, so I'd bring one home, dude, and I'd come in, I'd go to the kitchen, and you know, I would normally go put a DVD in the DVD player, like let it hit the screen, the menu screen before you hit play, and I'd go prep my stuff and bring it in the living room. I did all of that. Okay. And I came home and I put my food, my drink, you know, on this wooden tray my mom had. And I walked out. I walked through the dining room and into the living room. And the only light downstairs, because I don't know, it was really early in the morning, was the television lighting up the living room. And when you walk through the doors, the majority of the living room was to the right, like deep into the room, into the right. And I started to cut the corner and to go past the couch, and in the back of the room were two of these very dark beings just standing there. You know, and I just looked at them, and for a second I was like, you know, my brain thought, is that my dad? And then like my brain was like, well, there's two. And now I'm starting to feel really scared. And all I did was turn around, and I went and I put this tray of food on the dining room table, and I went upstairs and I went to bed. And that was my experience with them. You know, and my dad woke me up in the morning. He's like, "What the fuck is this full glass of milk and this lasagna on my table? You know, why are you wasting milk?" You know, and but those beings that I saw, I have no idea what they are. I have no idea what the point of it was. But like they were just full black shadow figures, like you're talking about. And I've seen a shadow figure one other time, and it was when I was in Germany, the second time when I was stationed in Germany, when I was still active duty, and it was again during a very turbulent part of my life. I always would tell people that this was the worst period of my life I have ever had, was this year. And I went outside to take the trash out because it was outside the building. And I went to go walk down the stairs, and there was something standing right there in front of me. And I took a picture of it. You know, I sent it to people. I was like, "Can you see this?" Yes, you know. And I mean, I literally just walked my trash right back up the stairs into my apartment, and you know, went out later to take it out. But you know, those are the only times I've ever encountered anything, and the only link I see between them is the fact that I was going through something extremely serious at the time, and I knew then like that is the point of why they were there, though I don't know their purpose, you know? And I was just curious, like, if you had any thoughts on, like, what the purpose is.
I think it's to get it to, so I've had that, too, as a kid, at the entity at the top of the stairs. Thought it was my mom. Wasn't my mom. The black shadow figures moving through halls, you know, shit like that, scaring the shit out of you. I think it's to make you realize that there's more than whatever the fuck what's going on inside of you up here, like that. there's like that there's more out there that that we can barely scrape the surface of, but it's there, like that we can interact with it. And I think it's kind of a I don't know if it's a slip in the veil, or I don't know if it's like something like that, but
Sure.
I almost think that it's like it's kind of like a light switch or something to get you to kind of go, well, like one of the they do say is like, it's like it feeds off of your energy or whatever, right? So if you like you just turn on, walk the fuck out, but if you were just going just screaming, fucking, like maybe it would have got worse, like maybe it would have done more stuff to get you
Right.
Real amped up, and like interact with you more. So maybe it's looking for the window of opportunity for interaction, is kind of how I felt. So like if you just ignore it, I had a lady who's an author in Dayton when I was radio station down there. She wrote all of the Haunted Ohio books, so she did all of those, right? And it was just basically all these stories from all over the place. But she was like forever, and like I told her about my experiences, like off air, and I was telling her, and she's like, "You can make that go away." I'm like, "How do you make it go away?" She's like, "You just tell it to fuck off." And I'm like, "Really?" She's like, "Yeah, tell it to go away. You don't want anything to do with it." And I'm like, "Yeah." And like, so like when I was 18, I was like, "Fuck you, I don't want to deal with this shit anymore." And I was like, "Nope. That's it. Fuck off." And then like it took me a really long time to come back the other way to actually have the experience again, because and I was just like, "Nope." Because when I would see stuff like that, I'd be like, like I'm not even giving you the time of day. I'm out. I'm just not even dealing with it. Like, so if you don't put it in.
There is a Bible verse that says, resist the devil and he will flee from you, as in like run away from you.
Yeah. That's kind of how I felt. That's how I was like, well, fuck you. Like, I'm not dealing with it.
Yeah.
Like, nope. With like other people are like, I saw a ghost, the fucking shit. I was like, nah. But then like that's totally how some people are. Like you'll see a UFO and be like, nah, it's something else. Or
Well, so one of the other reasons I mentioned this stuff is because I asked somebody else like what opinion on it. Another a coworker I had at the time in Germany. Like I explained to her, she was somebody I sent the photo to of this like shadow being, and I was like, why do you think? And I made the connection like I just made here about like these very turbulent times in my life, and she said to me that she felt like it was sort of to see how confrontational I would get with it. And that perhaps it was, an invitation to deal with whatever I was dealing with on a spiritual level. And that if I would have confronted it rather than like walking away from it, not giving it the time of day, like you said, like I recognized it for what it was. It was like, fuck this, and bounced, that it was almost an invitation to confront it and maybe either say something or get involved with it somehow to confront it and challenge it essentially. And that perhaps this was my opportunity to sort of like solve what was going on in my life on the back end where all of this was coming from anyway. And I've always thought about it that through that lens is like, that's really odd, and it sort of tracks in a way. You're presented with this challenge essentially here, and that's sort of like the hero's journey, right? Like you have to overcome, Odysseus coming home has to go through all these tribulations, right? And even then when he gets home, he still encounters all these problems, and that basically that's what it was. And I was just curious to hear what you'd say, because I've sort of tried to look at it that way now in hindsight, and it does leave the door open for it to happen again, which I'm not really looking forward to, right? If that ever does happen again, but I'd like to think that maybe if it was, I would give that a shot, I guess, just to see what
would go fight it. You'd go fight it.
Sure, maybe I'd put my dukes up, or I would say question it, right? Like, what do you want? What are you doing? Why are you bothering me? And and that's confrontational, right? And that by nature, and to see what would happen, rather than leaving the room, because both times I had the opportunity to get out. It's not like it was blocking a doorway or a pathway. Both times it was just where I was going to be waiting for me, essentially, right? Coming around the corner in the living room, walking down the stairs, and where all the trash cans were behind my apartment building, right? So it's always there for me to flee. So it's just, I feel like you're looking at it like metaphorically, like there's all these things that like I could say about it. I have no evidence other than the anecdotal evidence of it, whether there's any truth to it at all. But, I always thought if that happened again, that perhaps I would give that a try, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, you can always it's when you're going back to invoking, the name, the devil. I mean, have you guys heard the stories of people that are in abduction scenarios where they call out Jesus and then the abduction stops, and it's well, what is that? What is that then, right? Is it really a gray alien from Zeta Reticuli that's going to take off, or he doesn't give a fuck? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
But why does it take off? Because did Jesus stop there, or is it something completely different than what we think it is, right?
Dude, it makes me think that whenever it's kind of like when you I think this is kind of a funny way to analogize it, but messing with my kids, right? It has to get more sophisticated as they get older, right?
And right, there you go. Yeah.
And that perhaps it's more sophisticated now than what it was back in the day. But then you have what was that? What's that? This is very famous. I think it's a painting, or maybe it's like a carving of this event that happened. I think in Germany during the
sky battle with the
yes, exactly. Yeah. But so that kind of doesn't track because what are you, spaceships in the sky, and then you look at some of the Zoroastrian religion and some of those things, you're literally describing fucking spaceships and shit,
right?
Who knows, but it could be the fact that the deception has to be more sophisticated, and too, using it back then, when the idea is that we're more primitive
1561
species.
Nuremberg Celestial.
1561.
Yep. That we're the idea back in the day, right? These times that we're a more primitive society, so all of this is the shock and awe, right, of the alien world, whereas now it's this expectation of what aliens are going to look like, and or maybe the fact that God is the creator of the universe, and everything that exists inside the universe is has to answer to him in one way or another, and that's why it works.
Yeah, I'd like to believe that too.
I mean, personally, that's kind of the way that I see it. The older that I get, the more that I'm trying to broaden my horizons and my understanding of what God is and what he could be. And there's a certain amount of faith that goes into it, right? Because it's when you look through the Bible and you see what is it that we're actually supposed to believe about God? What is it that he's told us about him, right? Going back to Genesis, I am that I am. There's not a lot that he describes to us about himself, but we do know a lot about the person of Jesus Christ, and we know more about God from what is spoken about him from both the prophets and from Jesus himself than we know of what God has said about himself, right? And so the whole idea that Jesus is God's son, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. These are things that Jesus Christ has said about himself, claiming the deity of God. I mean, I personally believe that God is too big for a human being to understand and to conceptualize, right? And I'm not trying to speak heretically any Christians out there when I say this, but if God was to show up in the New Testament as Jesus and be like, listen, there's actually 10 dimensions of being out there, okay? And I come from a space where I can see all 10 dimensions and manipulate them all at once, and right now I'm just a physical projection of myself here in this time, right? They would it could not compute, right?
Handing a chip a cell phone.
Some people still can't even wrap around their heads around what you just said right now.
But showing up and saying, listen, God is my Father, and I am his one and only Son, and I'm coming in. I can understand. Right? I can conceptualize the relationship that you're talking about, and it makes sense. And I'm not trying to take away from the deity of Jesus Christ when I say that at all, right? So please don't come at me and start screaming heresy. What I'm saying is God is bigger than what we can understand. And yes, Jesus was God's only Son in that he was God, whatever God is, the eternal, most powerful being in the universe, right? That all things are made by him, and without him was not anything made that has been made, John 1:1, right? He became a human being at one point, because that's what Jesus said to us about himself.
I think we all became that human being at some point.
See, but then we would be, debating theology like really quick. But my point, I was going,
I'm just, like when you say that, I'm thinking cool, but his message was that
sure,
you could be through him, with him, and it
right
is
in heaven again one day.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, yeah, and there's a lot that we could talk about that, but
I want to hear that.
A lot of things that you guys have said tonight. I'm still, as a Christian, I'm sitting here and I'm listening to this, and I'm like, this all completely comports through a Christian worldview without messing up, if you're willing to broaden your mind for just a little bit and not put God inside of a box in your head of what he has to be because of the way he was described to you on flannel graph back when you were 8 years old in Sunday school. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bro, what's up, core memory?
Yeah,
that's exactly what that was.
It took me right back to CCD, man. Jeez, popping right out. Yeah, dude. Like, I think that going back, I think that's all the lessons and the parables and everything. That was symbology and hidden meaning and all of that too. And I think all of it is to know that we are, like, I just keep going back to it. I really believe that one of the biggest tragedies in humanity is that we've been lied to about how powerful we are as humans. And how closer we are to God than we imagine. And we can't be any more separate. We can't, be any closer than we are. And I think nobody gets that or realizes it. In just my own personal experiences, Just
well, I mean, case in point, when you say that, like, God made the angels, and we know from Scripture it says that Jesus was made lower than the angels, right? And so we can ipso facto take from that angels sit as spiritual beings in between God and us as man. But yet when God made man out of the earth and breathed into him the breath of life, right? Then it says that when mankind fell, God so loved them that he gave his one and only son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have eternal life. So God loved man more than he loved the angels, because when the angels had their epic heaven battle and Satan took a third of them, right? And so now you have the devil and his demons and God and his angels. God didn't do anything to redeem the angels.
Right.
So everything that you're saying still comports, because yes, human beings are made in the image of him, and he loved them to a point of, let me make a way to redeem you so that we can be together again, is the idea behind it.
And then you got the Nephilim who came, sons of God came into the daughters of men, and then you have
that's the thing that happened.
So that
that's
if the angels can mate with fucking humans, then what does that mean? So now there's half angels, half humans walking among us.
Yes.
I think that's real.
Giants.
Yeah. I mean, there could be anything.
I'm really glad.
It could be all of us by now. Like that DNA is probably trips.
I have a theory about that. That it's like if you have people, because they say lizard person, right? It's like people would say a certain first lady at one point, that if you say your name online, then people show up at your house the next day, and they're like, well, how can people be that evil, right? How can that must be a lizard person. They're not real human beings. I'm like, well, I mean, at one point there's demon DNA inside the world, and so it's like, is it so hard then to conceive the idea that this so long later down the road that there are people running around that come from that kind of line of DNA passed down, where they don't have a human soul inside of them because they come from a point where mankind were effing with demons.
Looks like John believes that.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I have a theory about that.
That's. I mean, if you take it literally, in the Bible, that's what happened. There's there's both sides. So.
I don't know how much. I know it's late where you're at, because no, you're good. Yeah, I would say it's getting late. You're on the East Coast. Chris and I are both on the West Coast. But
it's midnight. It's over past midnight.
I appreciate you hanging out for over 3 hours with us, man. This has been this is an awesome conversation with you. So really, I'll ask you one last question.
Sure, man.
And let you get out of here.
Oh, you're good.
But you talked about your experience with the white lady and the sword. But I was sort of wondering, and throughout all of your, I don't know what you want to call it, experiences with NHI and what you do online and in your work with your podcast.
Yeah.
Has there been a time where you felt like you'd encountered actual evil?
No, I mean, not in this. Not in no. When I was young, yes. When I was a kid, when I was
Really
too young to understand what it was, probably. Yeah, the whole dark entities in the corners kind of things. The whole hauntings, dreams, ghosts. Shit, that kind of stuff. Yeah, right. And it alienates you a lot too, so it weighs on you because you remember like you're just a fucking kid, you're just making stuff up, and it's just all make believe and nobody believes you and all that stuff, and you've seen too many movies or whatever. But yeah, like that part kind of sucked. But yeah, like the true evil part, no. I mean, I haven't seen. I've seen the masquerade of people, I don't know to say people, but like things thinking that they are like you said, it's the whole deception, right? It's the whole it's like the Jacques Vallée book where Messengers of Deception, where he's got it's like the puppet where it's got the hand up and there's a devil on one stick and there's an angel on one and an alien on the other. It's like that's kind of how I feel. It's like it's all of this shit at the same time, but it's like it's probably none of it, right? So I've had some weird things that have happened, but I can't say whether it was non-human intelligence or our intelligence. You fucking with me, right? Because that could happen, right? Yeah. That has happened, right?
No doubt.
So, like, was it somebody doing the voice to skull technology on me? Maybe. Could have been. Could have been somebody trying to talk to me telepathically. Maybe. But it could be the same, right? Like, how do you discern one of those two things, right? So, I think there's probably evil people for sure, right? Like you said, there's definitely evil in the world. But as far as like the non-corporal, non-human intelligence, I've never had the feeling of dread or pure evil from any. Personally, have not felt that. Even like I said, the real big experience. It was just kind of like, what's going to happen? It wasn't like a. The winds come in and am I going to be scalped or anything? I was just kind of like, yeah. But like I said, when I was younger, when you don't understand things and you have shadow people sitting in the corner, that'll fuck with you for a while, right?
Yeah. No doubt.
No interaction, just dark, foreboding, looming.
Right.
Yeah. But other than that, no. I mean, not really. But I have had the opposite. I've had the best. I've met the most amazing people and have the most synchronicities and most beautiful experiences just from following that spirit, that heart, that love that you kind of feel, that you kind of radiate and resonate with people. Like I've felt that more often than not, just doing the dumb shit I've done in the book, the podcast and all that stuff. And I've met some really amazing people and felt that connection with them that I would normally never have. So I think that outweighs any of the other stuff up a billion to one for sure.
Amen. Yeah.
And like you guys, thank you for reaching out. By the way, I appreciate it. Like.
No, dude, this was an awesome conversation, man. I actually would love to have you come back and
anytime, man, for sure.
You
guys got to come on my podcast too, for sure.
Absolutely, we're all about reciprocating. So yes, please, if you want to have us on, we will be glad to do that. I can tell you about my time at Malmstrom Air Force Base. So,
tell you about my contact with light people.
See,
go the other direction.
Yes. Look at that.
Yeah. We'll set it up, man. Yeah. I'll send you my personal cell phone in an email, dude, and we can coordinate. But I would love to have you back on again, and like maybe you could get into the weeds on disclosure, and really talk about that because that seems to be a ever changing animal, man, and something that's hard to keep up with. And you spend a lot more time in that environment than we do. So
way too much time.
Yeah, I'm sure you feel that way all the time, brother. Yeah.
Well, hey, what the fuck are they doing now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what it seems like, man. Somebody's always mad about something in the UFO sphere there
Everybody's
online.
Everybody's butthurt about everything, man. It's just terrible.
All the
and
time.
Then just watch the PSYOP guys running circles around everybody. It's just fucking hilarious.
I will say this. I loved Paulina Luna's Plato's Cave allegory meme that she put up, and then the other half of it was in the celestial sphere. I was like, dude, that's a good fucking meme, bro. Like when she put that one out there.
Dude, you gotta somebody's got to be keeping track of that shit. There's got to be keeping that. Like she's just launching shit out there, and it's
That's
like,
what I'm. It's like, are you being allegorical, or do you fucking know something, man? Like, because you're being real mysterious right now, Chica. Like, I need to know. Like, somebody tell me something, man. Because that is it, dude. Plato's cave, you know, and the fact that she articulated that both here terrestrially and then celestially, it was just like, yo, that you're doing something there, man.
She's
From
like
a member of
posting
Congress, bro, like.
Archangel Michael and shit, like just dropping all kinds of stuff.
Which is, dude, and that goes back to like the conversations with like Chris Bledsoe has talked about, you know, before too, Saint Michael, and it's incredible. We'll do that next time. I like look at us laying the groundwork, but for those of you guys still listening, I appreciate you guys listening to another episode of I Came with Fire podcast. Please consider hitting the follow button. Do us a favor, hit the show notes and check out the sponsors, because like I always like to say, one of the best ways to support us is by supporting them, and we will catch you guys on the next episode. But John, real fast for the people in the audience, where can they find you and your work?
Oh, man, all the podcast platforms, it's UFOs on the level. And check it out. So I'm all over Twitter.
You're on X too.
Yeah, Twitter X. I still call it Twitter, but I'm all over. I'm all over X. I'm all over Twitter, YouTube. Yeah, but definitely hit me up for sure.
All right, awesome, man. Appreciate you guys, and we'll have a good night.
Thanks, guys.